Panem is a nation built on control, a land that thrives on strict divisions, and an unshakable hierarchy. It exists in the Hunger Games book series, portraying a world that has endured disaster and emerged with a system designed to maintain power for the few, while keeping the many in a state of submission. Located in what was once North America, Panem consists of the capital and 12 districts, each with its own purpose, its own role in the grand design of a world where survival is not guaranteed and rebellion is unthinkable. At the heart of Panem is the capital, a place of excess, wealth, and luxury, unlike anything found in the districts. The citizens here live in privilege, untouched by the suffering that exists beyond their glittering city. While the rest of the nation toils, the people of the capital indulge in fashion, entertainment, and grand spectacles that distract them from the cost of their comfort. They are shielded from the reality of the districts, living in a carefully maintained illusion where hardship is nothing more than a distant story. The districts, however, exist under entirely different circumstances. They are the backbone of Panem, each one specializing in a particular industry that serves the needs of the capital. Some districts mine coal, others produce food, manufacture goods, or supply luxury items, but no matter their function, all are bound by the same reality. Life in the districts is a struggle, resources are scarce, opportunities are limited, and the government ensures that no district rises beyond its station. The districts are numbered, and that number represents not just geography but status. The higher the number, the harsher the conditions, with District 12 being one of the most impoverished, struggling with hunger, dangerous labor, and a sense of helplessness that has been passed down through generations. The power of the capital does not come from military force alone, but from its ability to maintain order through fear and tradition. One of the most significant methods of control is the Hunger Games, an annual event that serves as both punishment and entertainment. The games exist as a reminder of a failed uprising from the past, a way to reinforce the idea that rebellion leads only to suffering. Each year, the districts are forced to send 2 tributes, a boy and a girl, to fight in a televised death match, where only one can survive. This event is more than just a battle, it is a spectacle, designed to keep the districts in line while providing the capital with its most anticipated form of entertainment. The tributes are paraded, interviewed, trained, and eventually thrown into the arena, where survival depends not only on skill, but on strategy, alliances, and the favor of those watching. For the people of the capital, the games are a source of excitement. They place bets, admire the tributes, like celebrities, and revel in the drama that unfolds. But for the districts, it is a nightmare. The selection, known as the reaping, is a moment of dread, where families hold their breath, knowing that the odds are never truly in their favor. The children chosen are not warriors by nature, they are ordinary people, forced into a brutal system that turns them into pawns in a game designed to remind them of their place. Beyond the games, the capital ensures control in other ways. Surveillance is constant, movement is restricted, and any sign of defiance is met with swift punishment. Peacekeepers, the enforcers of the capital's rule, patrol the districts, ensuring that no one steps out of line. The threat of violence is always present, but it is not just physical force that maintains order. It is the way the capital manipulates reality, twisting the narrative so that the people of Panem see no alternative to their suffering. Information is controlled, history is rewritten, and hope is kept just out of reach. Despite these oppressive conditions, the districts are not without spirit. Beneath the surface, there are those who resist, those who dream of a world beyond the capital's rule. The games, meant to break the will of the people, sometimes have the opposite effect, planting the seeds of rebellion where none were supposed to grow. The smallest acts of defiance, refusing to play by the rules, showing kindness in the face of cruelty, become symbols of something greater. In a world where power seems absolute, even the slightest challenge to authority carries weight. Panem is a carefully constructed machine, one that thrives on division, ensuring that the districts remain isolated from one another, so that they never unite against their common enemy. The capital fuels rivalry, distrust, and desperation, making it nearly impossible for the people to come together. But no system is perfect, and no control is absolute. Beneath the glamour and the spectacle, beneath the fear and the suffering, there is always the potential for change. Even the name Panem carries meaning. It is derived from the Latin phrase panem et circenses, which translates to bread and circuses, a reference to the way those in power maintain control by keeping the population distracted with food and entertainment. This is the foundation of the capital's rule, providing just enough to prevent outright rebellion, while ensuring that the people remain too occupied to question the world around them. But bread and circuses can only hold control for so long. Hunger remains, not just for food, but for something greater, for freedom, for a future beyond the games, beyond the districts, beyond the capital's reach. Panem is a world where oppression and excess exist side by side, where suffering is woven into the very fabric of society, where the illusion of peace is maintained only through force and fear. It is a dystopia built on the remnants of a fallen world, a place where power is everything, and survival is never guaranteed. But no system lasts forever, and even in the darkest of times, the spark of resistance can still be found, waiting for the moment when it will be allowed to burn. The Chicago faction system exists in the world of Divergent, a rigidly structured society built on the belief that human nature can be controlled, that conflict can be avoided, if people are placed into strict categories based on their values. The city of Chicago, once a thriving metropolis, now functions as an isolated experiment, a place where every citizen must conform to the role assigned to them. The world outside is unknown, spoken of only in whispers, and those within the city have been taught that their way of life is the only way to maintain order. The entire structure of society revolves around 5 factions, each representing a core virtue believed to be essential for a stable world. Abnegation values selflessness and rejects vanity, believing that by putting others first, society can function without greed or corruption. Dauntless values bravery, training its members to be fearless protectors, believing that courage and strength are the keys to ensuring safety. Erudite values intelligence, prioritizing the pursuit of knowledge above all else, believing that only the most intelligent should lead. Amity values peace, rejecting conflict and aggression in favor of harmony, believing that kindness can prevent war. Candor values honesty, believing that absolute truth is the only way to achieve justice. Every citizen is born into one of these factions, but at the age of 16 they must make a choice. A test is administered to guide them, revealing which faction best suits their natural instincts, but in the end, the choice is theirs. They may stay with the faction they were born into, or leave their families behind forever, choosing a new path, a new identity. It is a system designed to give the illusion of free will, while ensuring that society remains divided, that each person has a place, a role, a function. Once the choice is made, there is no turning back. Initiation into a new faction is brutal, designed to test loyalty and weed out the weak. Failure does not mean a second chance, it means becoming factionless, a fate worse than death in a society where belonging is everything. The factionless live on the fringes, ignored by those who belong, struggling to survive in a city that sees them as nothing more than an unfortunate consequence of the system. They are a reminder of what happens to those who do not fit, those who fail, those who do not conform. Each faction is kept separate, isolated from the others, except for the few moments when their duties require interaction. The dauntless patrol the city, ensuring that no one steps out of line. The erudite control education and research, their influence stretching further than most realize. The abnegation serve in government, trusted with leadership because of their supposed selflessness. The Amity tend to the land, providing food and keeping themselves removed from conflict. The Kandor oversee the legal system, their belief in truth shaping the rules that govern all. Each plays a role, and as long as they stay in their place, the system continues to function. But beneath the surface, cracks begin to show. The illusion of peace begins to waver when questions arise, when people start to wonder if human nature can truly be controlled, if a single virtue can define an entire life. Not everyone fits neatly into one category, and the test does not always provide a clear answer. Some people discover that they do not belong to just one faction, but possess qualities of several. They are labeled Divergent, a word spoken in hushed tones, a secret that must be hidden. In a society built on order, divergents represent unpredictability, something that cannot be allowed. The city itself is a reflection of this controlled society. The buildings are crumbling, remnants of a world that no longer exists. Beyond the boundaries, the unknown looms, a mystery that no one speaks of, a world erased from history. The people are told that they are safe, that their way of life is the only thing preventing chaos, but there are those who suspect that the truth is not what it seems. The factions create the illusion of stability, but beneath it, there is something else, something being carefully hidden. For those who belong, the system provides purpose, direction, identity, but for those who question, who do not fit, who do not conform, the city is a prison disguised as a home. The choice they were given was never truly a choice at all. The test was never about finding where they belonged, but about ensuring that they stayed within the lines drawn for them. And for those who dare to step outside those lines, who see the world not as 5 factions but as something more, the consequences are severe. The Chicago faction system is not just a way of life, it is a method of control, a way to ensure that power remains in the hands of those who understand how to manipulate it. The belief that each faction must serve its purpose is not about maintaining balance, but about keeping people divided, preventing unity, ensuring that no one asks the questions that might unravel everything. Those who lead understand that control is strongest when people do not realize they are being controlled. The truth is not what it seems, and for those who begin to see through the illusion, there are only 2 choices: accept the world as it is, or risk everything to uncover what lies beyond the walls, beyond the factions, beyond the carefully constructed reality they were meant to believe. The Scorch and the WCKD control zones exist in the world of the Maze Runner, a world ravaged by disaster, where survival is uncertain and every day is a battle against both the environment and the forces that seek to manipulate what remains of humanity. It is a world shaped by catastrophe, where the remnants of civilization have been divided into those who control and those who are controlled. Society has collapsed, and in its place, a brutal system has emerged, one designed to test, to experiment, and to determine who is worthy of survival. The Scorch is what remains of the world beyond the walls of the controlled environments, a vast and unforgiving wasteland, where the sun scorches the earth, and the landscape is littered with the ruins of the old world. Once thriving cities have been reduced to skeletal remains, their buildings half buried in sand and dust, their streets long abandoned. What was once a place of life and progress is now nothing more than a reminder of what has been lost. The air is thick with heat, the ground cracked and dry, and any who venture into this world without preparation are unlikely to last long. The elements themselves are a threat, but they are not the only danger lurking in the Scorch. The wasteland is not empty. Scattered across the ruins are those who have been cast out, those who have been left to fend for themselves in a world that has no mercy. Many of them are desperate, willing to do whatever it takes to survive, and in a place where resources are scarce, trust is a luxury few can afford. But there are others who are far more dangerous, those who have been changed by the virus that has plagued what remains of the world, those whose minds have been taken from them, leaving behind only rage and hunger. They are not the living, but they are not entirely dead either. They are something in between, something broken, something lost. While the Scorch is lawless and brutal, there are places that remain under control, places where those in power conduct their experiments, searching for answers that may or may not exist. These are the WCKD control zones, highly regulated areas where order has been maintained, but at a cost. WCKD is the organization that claims to be working toward a cure, but their methods are harsh, their justifications blurred between necessity and cruelty. They do not ask for consent, nor do they offer explanations. They take, they test, they push the limits of human endurance, all in the name of a greater goal. The people in these control zones are not free. They are subjects, pieces of a puzzle that WCKD is determined to solve. They are watched, monitored, pushed to their limits in ways they do not understand. Some believe that WCKD is necessary, that without them, there would be no hope at all. Others see only their cruelty, their willingness to sacrifice individuals for the sake of the whole. The line between hero and villain is blurred, and the truth is not as simple as it appears. The world outside the control zones is no better. It is not just the virus or the environment that makes survival difficult, but the realization that there is no safe place, no place untouched by the consequences of what has happened. The past does not matter. The future is uncertain. The only thing that exists is the struggle to keep going, to make it one more day, to find some meaning in a world that seems determined to erase all hope. There are those who fight against WCKD, those who refuse to accept their authority. Some seek to take down the organization, to expose its methods, to bring an end to its experiments. Others simply want to escape, to find a way to survive without being controlled, without being used. But in a world where resources are dwindling, where the disease spreads faster than solutions can be found, there are no easy answers. Even those who resist must ask themselves whether WCKD's methods, however cruel, might be the only hope left. The Scorch is not just a physical wasteland, but a symbol of what the world has become. It is a place without rules, without guarantees, where the past has been erased, and the future is uncertain. It is a test in itself, one that forces those who enter it to confront, not just the dangers of the outside world, but the darkness that exists within themselves. Those who survive do not do so without sacrifice. Those who leave do not do so unchanged. The WCKD control zones are the last attempt at order, a place where the future is being decided, where every action is calculated, every decision weighed against the greater goal. It is a world where morality has become a question without a clear answer, where survival and sacrifice are in constant conflict. To escape means to abandon the search for a cure. To stay means to be part of something that might save the world, but might also destroy those who stand in its way. There are no easy paths in this world. Every step forward comes with a cost. Every choice carries consequences. In a landscape where everything is falling apart, the only certainty is that nothing will ever be the same again. Gilead exists in the world of the Handmaid's Tale, a society built on strict control, rigid hierarchy, and absolute obedience. It is a nation that did not come into existence by chance, but was created through force, designed by those who believed they could build a better world by taking away the freedoms of others. What once was a modern society has been reshaped into a totalitarian regime where every aspect of life is dictated by strict religious doctrine, and those who do not conform face consequences that are absolute and irreversible. The foundation of Gilead is built on the idea of order, but beneath that order is fear. The government operates with complete authority, enforcing its rules through surveillance, violence, and public punishment. The streets are patrolled by armed men who answer only to those in power, and stepping out of line can result in immediate retribution. The laws are not just enforced, they are absolute, and there is no room for disobedience, no space for resistance, no voice for those who question the system. Society is structured into defined roles, each person assigned a place according to their value to the regime. The most powerful men hold government positions, controlling the nation through strict policies and the use of force. They are the ones who dictate the laws, who shape the future, who decide what is right and what is wrong. They live in luxury compared to the rest of the population, untouched by the suffering their policies create. They are the architects of Gilead, and they intend for their rule to last forever. Women exist under a different system, their worth determined not by their intelligence, their skills, or their ambitions, but by their ability to serve. They are stripped of independence, of personal identity, of the ability to make decisions for themselves. Every aspect of their lives is controlled, from the way they dress to the words they are allowed to speak. They are categorized, separated into groups that dictate their function in society. Some are given positions as wives, expected to uphold the ideals of the regime and support their husbands without question. Others are assigned roles as caretakers, servants, or enforcers, each playing a part in maintaining the system that binds them all. But the most infamous role in Gilead is that of the handmaids, women chosen for one purpose alone. They are stripped of their names, their pasts erased, their identities reduced to a single function. They are not seen as individuals but as resources, valuable only for what they can provide. They are controlled, watched, monitored at all times. Their lives are not their own, their choices taken from them, their futures predetermined by a system that sees them as nothing more than tools for the survival of the nation. Despite the strict structure of Gilead, not everyone agrees with its rule. There are those who remember the world before, who hold on to the belief that freedom can still be regained. There are whispers of resistance, small acts of defiance that go unnoticed by the regime, but carry great meaning for those who dare to rebel. Messages hidden where only the right people will find them. Secret gatherings, where dangerous ideas are spoken in hushed voices. There are those who have not forgotten what it means to fight back, though the consequences of being caught are severe. For those who attempt to escape, the risks are overwhelming. The borders of Gilead are heavily guarded, and those who try to flee often find themselves facing a fate worse than the life they were running from. The punishments for disobedience are brutal, meant to serve as a warning to anyone who dares to question the regime. Public executions are common, the bodies left on display, as a reminder of what happens to those who do not comply. Fear is a weapon as powerful as any army, and Gilead wields it with precision. The outside world still exists, though it feels impossibly far away. Other nations watch Gilead from a distance, some condemning its actions, others remaining silent. There are places where people still live freely, where the laws of Gilead do not reach, but for those trapped within its borders, the idea of escape is nothing more than a distant dream. The regime ensures that its people believe there is nowhere to run, that the world beyond is no better than the one they know. Time in Gilead moves differently. The days blend together, each one the same as the last, a cycle of obedience and survival. For those who have accepted their place, there is no reason to hope for change. For those who resist, hope is all they have left. The rules are absolute, but rules can be broken. The walls are high, but walls can be torn down. Even in a society built on control, there are cracks in the foundation, and all it takes is the right pressure in the right place for the structure to begin to collapse. Gilead is not just a nation, it is a machine, one that was built with precision, designed to strip away individuality and replace it with submission. But no machine runs forever, and no system, no matter how powerful, is unbreakable. Control may be absolute, but human nature is unpredictable, and even the most rigid structures can fall when the right people begin to push back. The capital and the districts exist in the world of Snowpiercer, a dystopian society where survival is dictated by a rigid class system that determines who thrives and who suffers. The world outside has been reduced to ice and death, an uninhabitable wasteland that stretches endlessly in every direction. The only life that remains is confined within the train, an unstoppable machine that circles the frozen earth without end, carrying the last remnants of humanity within its steel walls. What was once civilization has been reduced to a single line of rail, a system where every passenger has a designated place, and stepping outside of that place is unthinkable. The train is divided into sections, each one reflecting the status and worth of those who reside there. At the very front is the capital, where the elite live in unimaginable luxury. These are the ones who hold power, the ones who make the rules, the ones who ensure that the system remains intact. They live in excess, surrounded by wealth, untouched by hunger or hardship. Their cabins are lavish, their food abundant, their days filled with entertainment and indulgence. To them, the suffering of those behind them is nothing more than a distant concept, something that does not concern them as long as the train continues to run. The further back one travels, the more the reality of this world becomes clear. The districts, stretching through the middle and lower sections of the train, are where the workers reside, those who keep the engine running, who maintain the systems that allow the privileged to live in comfort. They labor in harsh conditions, their lives dictated by the needs of the train. They have no say in how the world is run, no power to change their circumstances. Their purpose is to serve, to work, to exist within the confines of a system that does not see them as individuals, but as parts of a machine. At the very back of the train, hidden away from the rest of society, are the ones who have nothing. They live in darkness, cramped spaces, filled with the desperate and the discarded. Food is scarce, medicine even more so. They are the forgotten, the ones who were never meant to be part of the system, but who cling to life nonetheless. They are reminded constantly that they have no rights, that their presence is tolerated only as long as they remain silent and obedient. But desperation breeds resistance, and even in the bleakest conditions, there are those who dream of more. The train itself is a symbol of control, a system designed to maintain order through strict separation. The laws are enforced by the enforcers of the capital, figures of authority who ensure that no one steps beyond their assigned place. Punishments are swift and brutal for those who dare to challenge the system, serving as a reminder that the rules are not to be questioned. Order is everything, and the train must keep moving, no matter the cost. Information is tightly controlled, and those in the lower sections know little of what lies ahead of them. The capital controls the narrative, shaping the perception of reality to ensure compliance. The passengers in the front are taught that their place is earned, that the suffering of those behind them is necessary to maintain balance. The passengers in the back are taught that they are worthless, that their survival depends on submission. Every aspect of life is dictated by a system that ensures that those in power remain in power, and that those without remain in their place. Despite the overwhelming control, the train is not as stable as it appears. The cracks in the system are visible to those who know where to look, the injustices too blatant to ignore. The divisions once so clearly defined begin to blur as those in the lower sections begin to question their reality. The illusion of order can only last as long as people believe in it, and when belief begins to falter, the possibility of change begins to grow. But change is dangerous in a world where the rules have been written in steel and blood. Those who challenge the system face consequences that are meant to deter any further defiance. Order is maintained through fear, through force, through the constant reminder that the train must keep moving, that any disruption to the balance could mean the end for everyone. And yet, the the question lingers, what if the system is not as necessary as those in power claim? What if the suffering is not an unavoidable cost, but a choice made by those who refuse to share what they have? The capital and the districts are more than just divisions of class. They are a reflection of the belief that survival must come at a cost, that some must suffer so that others may live in comfort. But survival does not require inequality. The train does not need to function this way. It is not the laws of nature that dictate who thrives and who starves, but the laws of those who wish to hold on to their power. And when enough people begin to see the truth, when enough people begin to push back, the system that has kept them divided may no longer be able to hold. The train moves forward, circling the frozen earth, carrying with it the last of humanity. But within its walls, there is more than just survival. There is desperation, there is injustice, there is a growing understanding that the world does not have to be the way it is. And in a place where movement never stops, where the future is always just ahead, the question remains, how long can a system built on suffering continue before the tracks begin to break beneath it? The greater Nazi Reich and the Japanese Pacific states exist in the world of the man in the high castle, a version of history where the Axis powers won the Second World War, dividing what was once the United States into two oppressive regimes. This is a world shaped not by freedom, but by control, where every aspect of life is dictated by those in power, and survival depends on loyalty to a system that allows no dissent. The old America is gone, its ideals crushed beneath the weight of totalitarian rule, and in its place stand two empires built on fear, oppression, and the belief that resistance is futile. The greater Nazi Reich dominates the eastern half of the former United States, an extension of the Third Reich that has expanded its vision of order and racial superiority across the Atlantic. Here, the swastika flies over American cities, the architecture reflects the brutal efficiency of the regime, and the people live under the watchful eye of a government that tolerates no weakness. The ideology of the Reich is absolute, shaping the laws, the education system, the very way people think. Dissent is not an option. Those who do not conform disappear, erased from history as though they never existed. Life in the Reich is a carefully controlled illusion. For those who meet the regime's standards, life is structured, stable, even prosperous. Families live in well-maintained homes, industries thrive, and the cities function with ruthless precision. But beneath this surface is the reality of a system that sees human worth as something to be measured and discarded when necessary. The weak, the different, the undesirable, they are removed, purged in the name of progress, in the belief that only the strongest deserve to exist. Science and technology are advanced, but they serve a singular purpose, the maintenance of power, the continuation of an ideology that allows no room for imperfection. On the other side of the country, the Japanese Pacific states govern the Western territories, a vastly different empire, but one that is no less oppressive. The cities reflect the culture of the ruling power, blending traditional Japanese structures with the remnants of what once stood. The government enforces strict order, built on hierarchy and loyalty, where every citizen is expected to know their place. Resistance is met with swift consequences, and those who refuse to submit to authority find themselves facing punishments that are both brutal and absolute. The Japanese Pacific states maintain control through a delicate balance of military presence and societal structure. While the Reich governs with ideological purity, the Japanese rulers enforce obedience through cultural dominance, integrating elements of their traditions into everyday life, while ensuring that American customs are erased. The old way of life is forbidden, its symbols and values buried beneath the weight of the empire. The people are taught that their new rulers have brought stability, that their presence is a necessity, that questioning their authority is not only dangerous, but unthinkable. Between these two great powers lies the neutral zone, a strip of land that serves as the last remnant of lawlessness, a place where neither regime holds absolute control. It is a refuge for those who cannot live under the Reich or the Japanese rule, a place where fugitives and rebels attempt to disappear. But even here, safety is an illusion. Spies move in the shadows, agents of both governments seek out those who might threaten the status quo, and trust is something that no one can afford. The neutral zone is not free. It is simply a different kind of prison, where survival depends on staying unnoticed. The division between the Reich and the Japanese Pacific states is not just one of geography, but of ideology, of two different visions of what the world should be. The Reich is obsessed with its vision of a perfect society, where weakness is eliminated, and strength is the only currency that matters. The Japanese Pacific states focus on order, on discipline, on maintaining control, through structure and hierarchy. Both are absolute in their rule, and neither allows for opposition. Yet beneath this overwhelming control, there are those who resist. Underground movements work in secrecy, spreading messages of defiance, seeking ways to weaken the grip of the oppressors. Their numbers are small, their actions risky, but the idea of rebellion is something that cannot be entirely erased. Even in a world where resistance seems impossible, where the regimes appear unshakable, the human spirit refuses to be completely crushed. The people who live under these regimes have adapted in different ways. Some accept their place, either out of belief in the system or out of the understanding that fighting back is a death sentence. Others live in quiet defiance, holding on to memories of the past, whispering forbidden words behind closed doors. Then there are those who seek something greater, who are willing to risk everything to uncover the truth that has been buried beneath propaganda and fear. Technology is advanced, surveillance is constant, and loyalty is tested at every turn. Neighbors watch neighbors, families are torn apart by suspicion, and no one is truly safe. The governments do not need to control every action. Fear does that for them. The possibility of betrayal is enough to keep most people in line, ensuring that the system remains unchallenged. But even the most powerful systems have their weaknesses. The Reich, for all its might, is not invulnerable. The Japanese Pacific states, for all their discipline, are not unshakable. The illusion of absolute power can only hold for so long before the cracks begin to show. The weight of oppression, the contradictions of the system, the very nature of human resilience, these are the forces that no government, no matter how strong, can completely suppress. For those who live under this rule, the future is uncertain. The regimes have shaped the world in their image, but history has shown that no empire lasts forever. The Greater Nazi Reich and the Japanese Pacific states exist as monolithic forces, seemingly immovable, but beneath the surface, beneath the carefully maintained order, there is something growing. It may take time, it may take sacrifice, but even in the darkest of times, the possibility of change remains. The world outside may be unrecognizable, but the people within it still remember. They remember what was lost, what was taken from them, what was stolen in the name of progress and order. And as long as that memory exists, as long as there are those who refuse to accept the world as it is, the regimes that seem so permanent may one day find themselves facing the very thing they fear most, an idea that refuses to die. Oceania exists in the world of 1984, a society where control is absolute, where thought itself is monitored, and where the very concept of reality is dictated by those in power. It is a nation that has erased individuality, rewritten history, and turned its citizens into tools of the state. There is no escape from its grasp, no moment of privacy, no safe place where the eyes of the party do not reach. Oceania is not just a country, it is a prison of the mind, a place where obedience is not requested, but required, and where deviation is met with consequences that are not just physical but existential. At the head of this society is Big Brother, the face of the party, the figure whose presence is inescapable. His image is everywhere, watching from posters, from telescreens, from every surface that can be used to remind the people that they are never alone. Whether Big Brother is real or not, is irrelevant. He is the embodiment of the party, the force that dictates every aspect of life. To the citizens of Oceania, he is leader, protector, judge, and executioner. His authority is unquestionable, his will is law, and to even consider defying him is an act of destruction, not just of the body, but of the soul. The party controls Oceania through more than just force. It controls information, rewriting history whenever necessary, erasing the past, and replacing it with a new version that better serves its goals. Records are altered, newspapers rewritten, facts adjusted, so that the truth is whatever the party needs it to be. If an event is inconvenient, it never happened. If a person becomes a problem, they are removed from existence, not just physically, but in all records, all memories, all forms of proof. They become an unperson, someone who never existed at all. Reality is not defined by objective fact, but by the party's version of the truth. Language itself is a tool of control, refined into newspeak, a constantly evolving language designed to limit thought and prevent rebellion before it can even be conceived. Words that are unnecessary are eliminated, reducing the ability to express dissent. Complex ideas are simplified, stripped of nuance, made into blunt instruments that reinforce party ideology. It is not enough to obey. The ability to even consider disobedience must be eradicated at its root. Thought crime is the greatest offense, the act of thinking something that contradicts the party's doctrine, and the punishment for it is swift and total. Oceania is structured into rigid classes, with the inner party at the top, a small and privileged elite that controls everything. They dictate policy, shape ideology, and enforce the rules that keep the system in place. Below them is the outer party, the bureaucrats, the functionaries who carry out the will of their superiors. They live under constant scrutiny, their loyalty questioned at every turn, their lives dictated by rules so strict that even the slightest misstep could lead to their undoing. At the bottom are the proles, the masses who exist outside the rigid structures of party membership. They are not seen as a threat, not because they are free, but because they are considered beneath notice. Their lives are filled with distractions, their energies spent on meaningless entertainment, their minds kept occupied with petty concerns, so that they never have the time or the awareness to challenge the system. Surveillance is constant. The telescreens are everywhere, broadcasting party messages, watching every movement, listening to every word. There is no escaping them, no way to know when they are watching or when they are listening. Any sign of deviation, a twitch, an expression, a moment of hesitation, can be enough to mark someone as a potential enemy of the party. The thought police exist to root out these threats before they can become real, ensuring that those who waver are corrected before they have the chance to act. No one is safe, not even in their own minds, because even a dream, even an unconscious reaction, can be enough to betray them. The party's greatest weapon is its ability to reshape reality, not just on paper, but in the minds of its people. Doublethink is the key to this, the ability to hold two contradictory beliefs at the same time, and accept both as true, to know that something is a lie, but believe it anyway, to see evidence with one's own eyes but deny it exists, to rewrite history not just on paper, but within the mind itself. The party does not simply control actions, it controls thoughts, memories, perceptions. It controls what is real. War is perpetual, a tool used to maintain control, to justify oppression, to keep the people in a state of fear and obedience. The enemy shifts without warning. Alliances change overnight, but no one questions it. Yesterday's ally is today's enemy, and the people believe it without hesitation, because they must. The past is rewritten, the records changed, and those who remember otherwise either keep silent or are erased along with the old version of history. There is no truth except what the party says is true. Despite the overwhelming control, there is no open rebellion, no great uprising. There is only the quiet resistance that exists in fleeting thoughts, in unspoken doubts, in the smallest acts of defiance. But in Oceania, even these are dangerous. To question is to risk everything. The party does not just punish rebellion, it eliminates the very possibility of it. Those who stray from the path are not simply executed or imprisoned. They are broken, reshaped, made to love Big Brother, to accept their fate, to surrender completely. The goal is not just obedience, but absolute loyalty, the destruction of the self, until nothing remains but devotion to the party. The future in Oceania is not a future of hope, not a future of change. The party does not seek progress, it seeks permanence. It does not rule for the sake of the people, but for the sake of power itself. Its ideology is not one that promises a better world, but one that ensures its own survival, that keeps the cycle going indefinitely. It is a world where the very concept of freedom has been erased, where the past is rewritten at will, where reality is whatever those in power decide it to be. It is not enough for the people to obey. They must believe, they must accept, they must forget that anything else was ever possible. Even in the darkest moments, there are those who wonder, who question, who hold on to the idea that something else might exist beyond the walls of the party's control. But in a world where the past can be erased, where memories can be rewritten, where truth itself is fluid, how can anyone be certain that their own thoughts are real? The ultimate victory of the party is not just in controlling what people do, but in controlling what they know, what they remember, what they believe to be true. Oceania is not just a dictatorship, not just a surveillance state. It is something far deeper, something far worse. It is a world where reality itself is owned by those in power, where history is rewritten in real time, where the people are not just ruled but shaped, their very minds molded into the image that the party demands. It is a world where resistance is not just dangerous, but meaningless, where even the act of remembering something different from what the party declares to be true is a crime. It is a world where the future is set in stone, where the past can be erased, where the present is whatever those in control decide it to be. Oceania is not built on oppression alone. It is built on something stronger, something far more unbreakable, the ability to make its people love their chains. And as long as they love them, as long as they accept their reality, without question, the party's rule is secure. In the end, it does not matter what was true, what was real, what was lost. The only thing that matters is that Big Brother is watching, and he always will be. The world state exists in the world of Brave New World, a society where control is not maintained through fear or force, but through pleasure, conditioning, and absolute conformity. It is a world that has eliminated pain, suffering, and conflict, but in doing so has also erased individuality, ambition, and free will. The people do not rebel because they have no reason to. They do not question because they have never been taught how. The world state is not a dictatorship in the traditional sense. It does not need to rely on oppression because its citizens are conditioned to love their servitude, to accept the system as natural, to see their existence as perfect. From birth, every person is assigned a role, their fate determined before they take their first breath. There is no uncertainty, no fear of failure, no struggle to find purpose. The system ensures that everyone knows exactly where they belong, that every function of society is performed efficiently without resistance. The caste system is absolute, with each individual designed for a specific place in the hierarchy. At the top are the alphas, the leaders, the intellectual elite who oversee the operations of society. Below them are the betas, capable and intelligent, but not meant to lead. Further down are the gammas, the deltas, and at the very bottom, the epsilons, workers engineered to perform menial tasks, content with their simplicity, incapable of aspiring to anything greater. Each caste is biologically engineered before birth. The lower castes are deliberately stunted, designed to be less intelligent, less capable, less likely to question. The process ensures that every person is not just placed in a social class, but created for it, their very nature shaped to align with their role. They do not resent their position because they cannot comprehend wanting anything else. Ambition does not exist. Discontent does not exist. From childhood, people are conditioned through hypnopedia, or sleep teaching, a method that imprints societal values into their subconscious. They hear repeated phrases night after night, reinforcing obedience, reinforcing happiness in their designated role. They grow up believing that their world is perfect, that their function is meaningful, that the very idea of questioning the system is unnatural. They do not seek knowledge beyond what they are given. They do not wonder about life beyond their assigned purpose. They are content, not because they have found fulfillment, but because they have been programmed to be. There is no family. There is no love. There is no deep human connection. People are not born. They are created in laboratories, designed for efficiency, raised without parents, without emotional bonds. Relationships are superficial, temporary, fleeting. Commitment is unnecessary. Attachment discouraged. Marriage does not exist. The concept of mother and father is considered obscene, an ancient relic of a time when life was uncontrolled, when people suffered from the burdens of responsibility and emotional dependency. Pleasure is the tool that ensures stability. If discomfort arises, if an individual begins to feel anything beyond the programmed contentment, there is soma, a drug that eliminates pain, suppresses anxiety, and ensures that no one ever has to experience unhappiness. It is not forced upon the people. They take it willingly, eagerly, because they have been taught that suffering is unnatural, that any moment of unhappiness should be erased before it takes root. The people do not turn to rebellion, to anger, to defiance, because they have never learned how to cope with hardship. They simply take another dose, drifting back into the comfortable numbness that defines their existence. Art, literature, and philosophy have been stripped of their depth, reduced to meaningless entertainment that stimulates but does not challenge. Music is simplistic. Movies are filled with empty spectacle. Books exist only to reinforce the ideals of the world state. Knowledge beyond what is necessary for a person's function is seen as dangerous. Thinking deeply is unnecessary. Debate is unnecessary. Curiosity is unnecessary. The people are entertained, distracted, kept in a state of constant pleasure so that they never seek anything more. The world state has no war, no crime, no disease, no suffering, but it has also eliminated passion, creativity, and the very essence of what makes people human. Individuality is sacrificed for stability, and those who do not fit, who question, who feel too deeply, are not tolerated. They are seen as threats, anomalies that must be dealt with. Those who disrupt the perfect balance are sent away, exiled to distant islands, where they cannot infect the rest of society with their dangerous ideas. There are no executions, no brutal punishments, just quiet removal, a simple process that ensures the system remains undisturbed. Religion has been replaced with devotion to the state. There are rituals, ceremonies, moments of collective worship, but they are not for a god. They are for the world state itself, for the system that has given the people everything they could ever need. Science is controlled, used only to maintain the stability of the world, never to challenge it. Any discovery that threatens the order of society is suppressed before it can spread. Progress is not about change, but about maintaining what already exists. Those who look at the world state from the outside might see it as a utopia, a place free of war and suffering, a place where everyone is happy. But happiness in this world is not real. It is manufactured, programmed, conditioned into the very fabric of existence. There is no depth to it, no meaning beyond what the system has designed. The people do not dream because they do not need to. They do not strive because they have been taught that there is nothing to strive for. The world state has solved the problems of human existence, but in doing so, it has stripped away everything that makes life worth living. There is no hunger, but there is also no fulfillment. There is no pain, but there is also no joy. There is no oppression in the traditional sense, but there is no freedom either, because freedom requires the ability to choose, to fail, to suffer, to fight, and in this world, those things have been removed entirely. There are those who do not fit, those who feel something is missing, even if they cannot explain what, but they are rare, and they are dealt with before they can disrupt the stability of the system. The world state does not allow for change, because change brings uncertainty, and uncertainty leads to instability. Everything must remain as it is, perfect in its carefully designed imperfection. In the end, the people of the world state do not know they are enslaved, because they do not understand what it means to be free. They do not long for something different, because they have been taught that their world is all that has ever existed, all that ever will exist. They are not prisoners in the traditional sense, because a prisoner must first realize that they are trapped, and in the world state, the greatest success of all is that no one ever does. The ruins of London exist in the world of children of men, a society where the future has collapsed, where the very concept of hope has withered away. It is a world where humanity faces extinction, not through war or disease, but through the slow decay of life itself. There are no new generations, no children, no future waiting beyond the present. The world has grown old, tired, suffocating, under the weight of its own decline. In London, once a thriving capital, the signs of civilization's slow death are everywhere. Buildings crumble, streets are filled with decay, and the people move through the remnants of a world that no longer has a purpose. The infertility crisis has reshaped society in ways that no war, no disaster, no political shift ever could. There are no new births, no children laughing in the streets, no schools preparing young minds for a life that no longer exists. The youngest people in the world are adults, and every passing year brings the realization that the human race is approaching its final days. This is not a sudden catastrophe, but a drawn-out inevitability, a slow march toward extinction that everyone is powerless to stop. The government has adapted, not by saving, but by controlling. Order is maintained through strict policies, through surveillance, through the quiet but ever-present threat of force. London has become a city of refugees, not just from foreign lands but from hope itself. The streets are lined with those who have nowhere left to go, who cling to life without knowing why. Immigration is tightly controlled, and those who do not belong are hunted, caged, discarded. The desperation of the world outside has turned the city into a fortress, but even within its walls there is no real safety. The rich and powerful continue to live in comfort, shielding themselves from the reality that surrounds them. Their homes are filled with relics of the past, art and music and luxury that serve as reminders of a world that once had a future. They try to preserve what remains, but they do not truly live. They are simply delaying the inevitable, distracting themselves from the truth that no amount of wealth can change. For the common people, life is reduced to routine. Work still exists, but it serves no purpose beyond maintaining what little remains. There are no grand ambitions, no dreams of a better world, only the need to survive for as long as possible. The cities function because they must, because people do not know what else to do, but there is no real progress, no real growth. It is as though the world has been placed in slow motion, waiting for the final moment when everything will simply stop. The government broadcasts messages of control, of unity, of the need to maintain order in the face of crisis, but the reality is that order has already collapsed. The illusion is kept alive only by force, by propaganda, by the knowledge that without structure, the last days of humanity will be even more brutal than they already are. There are still those who believe in something more, who seek meaning in the face of extinction, but they are seen as threats, as disruptions to the system that must be kept in place. Terrorism and resistance movements operate in the shadows, fueled by anger, by desperation, by the belief that there is still something left to fight for. They are hunted by the government, silenced when necessary, crushed when they grow too bold. But even as they fight, the question remains, what is there to win? What future is left to fight for when the end is inevitable? The city itself reflects the state of the world. The infrastructure is failing, roads are cracking, buildings are left abandoned. The once great institutions of government and culture still stand, but they are empty, lifeless, reminders of a world that no longer functions as it once did. The streets are filled with the lost, the broken, those who continue not out of hope, but because they do not know how to stop. There are still remnants of normal life. Shops remain open, people go to work, trains still run, but they are hollow repetitions of a society that no longer believes in itself. Conversations are muted, laughter is rare, and the unspoken reality looms over every interaction. The people of London live in a world without a future, and though they continue their routines, they all know the truth. Violence has become commonplace, not because of ideology or ambition, but because there is nothing left to lose. The streets are filled with crime, not as an act of rebellion, but as a symptom of despair. Police forces patrol the city with increasing aggression, their purpose less about protection and more about control. They do not seek justice, they seek order, and order is maintained through force. There are those who still dream, who still believe that something can be saved. Scientists search for answers, for solutions, but their efforts are met with skepticism, with exhaustion. Religion sees a resurgence in some places, as people turn to faith in the absence of answers, searching for meaning in a world that offers none. Others turn to nihilism, embracing the chaos, accepting that nothing matters anymore. The rest of the world is no better. Governments have collapsed, cities have been abandoned, entire nations have ceased to function. There are rumors of places where hope still exists, where efforts are being made to find a cure, a solution, something that can stop the inevitable. But they are only rumors, whispers in the dark, stories told by those who refuse to accept the truth. London remains a symbol of endurance, a place where life continues despite the certainty of extinction. But it is not a place of hope. It is a city going through the motions, clinging to the remnants of a world that no longer makes sense. There is no future waiting beyond the horizon, no new generation to rebuild what has been lost. There is only the present, and the knowledge that with each passing year, the world grows quieter, emptier, closer to the end. The ruins of London are not just physical. They exist in the minds of its people, in the empty spaces where hope once lived, in the knowledge that there is no way forward. This is not a world of war, of revolution, of resistance. It is a world of waiting, of slow decay, of a final chapter that has already been written. The city stands, but it is only a matter of time before it too fades, before the last echoes of humanity fall silent, before there is nothing left but the ruins of what once was. The Fallout Wasteland exists in the world of Fallout, a land where civilization has been reduced to ruins, where the mistakes of the past have left behind a world that is broken, irradiated, and filled with dangers that never should have existed. Once this was a thriving society, a world of towering cities, technological wonders, and limitless ambition. But all of that ended in fire. The bombs fell, and in an instant, everything changed. Now all that remains is a wasteland, a vast and unforgiving expanse, where survival is never guaranteed, where the remnants of the old world linger as both a warning and a temptation. The landscape is scarred, covered in crumbling buildings, rusted cars, frozen in time, shattered highways that lead to nowhere. Radiation lingers in the air, in the soil, in the very bones of the earth. Some places are too toxic for anything to live, forever poisoned by the war that ended the old world. Others have become home to those who refuse to die, who have adapted to the wasteland's cruelty, who have learned how to navigate a world where danger is around every corner. Scattered across the wasteland are settlements, pockets of humanity that have managed to carve out an existence among the ruins. Some are small, nothing more than a few buildings patched together with scrap, their people barely surviving on what little they can scavenge. Others have grown into thriving hubs of trade and power, built on the foundations of the old world, trying to reclaim some piece of what was lost. But even the largest settlements are fragile, constantly threatened by raiders, mutants, and the unforgiving nature of the wasteland itself. Violence is a way of life. Raiders roam the land, taking what they want, leaving destruction in their wake. They have no loyalty, no higher purpose, only the need to dominate, to survive by any means necessary. They are a reminder that in a world without laws, strength is the only thing that matters. The weak are prey, the strong take what they can, and morality is a luxury that few can afford. Radiation has twisted both the land and the creatures that inhabit it. Animals that once roamed freely have been mutated beyond recognition, their bodies warped into monstrous forms, giant insects, hulking beasts, and things that should not exist, stalk the wasteland, hunting anything that moves. Some of the creatures that roam the ruins were once human, but exposure to radiation has turned them into something else, something mindless, something relentless. The old world is not entirely gone. Ruins of once great cities still stand, their towers cracked and crumbling, their streets littered with the skeletons of a civilization that thought itself indestructible. Some wander these ruins, searching for supplies, for weapons, for anything of value that might help them survive another day. Others search for something more, secrets, lost knowledge, answers hidden in the rubble. The technology of the past still exists, buried beneath the ashes, waiting to be found, waiting to be used, waiting to be understood. Among the survivors are those who have taken it upon themselves to rebuild. Some believe that humanity can rise again, that the wasteland can be tamed, that the mistakes of the past do not have to define the future. They build, they organize, they try to create something better, but the wasteland does not care for their dreams. For every settlement that flourishes, another is burned to the ground. For every step forward, the wasteland pushes back. Others do not seek to rebuild, but to control. Warlords, factions, remnants of old governments, all fight to impose their will upon the wasteland. Some claim to offer protection, others demand obedience. The strongest carve out territories, ruling through fear, enforcing their own twisted versions of order. Some seek to restore the old world, clinging to the ideals of a civilization that no longer exists. Others embrace the chaos, seeing the wasteland not as a curse, but as an opportunity. Technology from before the war still exists, hidden away in bunkers, buried beneath the ruins, locked behind doors that have not been opened in centuries. Some seek these places for their treasures, advanced weapons, medical supplies, machines that could tip the balance of power. Others seek them for answers, for an understanding of what happened, of how the world fell apart, of whether anything can be salvaged from the wreckage. But these remnants of the past are not always abandoned. Some are guarded, protected by those who still cling to the old ways, who see the past not as something to be mourned, but as something to be reclaimed. Even among the chaos, there are those who wander, those who do not belong to any faction, who owe allegiance to no one. They travel the wasteland alone, or in small groups, scavengers, traders, mercenaries, explorers. Some seek fortune, others seek purpose. Some are running from something, others are searching for something they cannot name. They are the ones who see the wasteland for what it is, not just a graveyard, but a place where anything is possible. The wasteland does not care who you are. It does not care where you came from, what you believe, what you hope for. It is unforgiving, merciless, unrelenting. It is a place where survival is a battle fought every day, where trust is dangerous, where hope is a weakness that can get you killed. But it is also a place of opportunity, of discovery, of second chances. For those who are strong enough, smart enough, or lucky enough, it is a place where legends are made. The world before the war is gone, but its echoes remain. Some cling to the past, hoping to restore what was lost. Others embrace the future, whatever shape it may take. The wasteland is not just a place, it is a test, a proving ground, a crucible, where only the strongest survive. It is a reminder that no matter how much humanity destroys itself, it will always find a way to continue. The wasteland does not promise comfort, it does not offer certainty. It is harsh, it is cruel, it is filled with horrors beyond imagining. But for those who can endure it, for those who can navigate its dangers, for those who refuse to give in, it is also something else. It is freedom. The Republic of the Watch exists in the world of we, a society where individuality has been erased, where emotions are controlled, and where the concept of personal freedom is nothing more than a relic of a forgotten past. It is a world of glass cities, rigid schedules, and absolute obedience, where every aspect of life is dictated by mathematical precision. There are no names, only numbers. There are no choices, only assignments. The people do not rule themselves. They are ruled by logic, by structure, by an unwavering belief that absolute order is the only path to a perfect society. The city itself is a testament to this ideology. Every building is transparent, every room visible, every action observed. Privacy does not exist because privacy breeds secrecy, and secrecy breeds rebellion. The streets are straight, uniform, designed with an efficiency that eliminates the possibility of unpredictability. The citizens march in perfect synchronization, their schedules dictated down to the second, their lives a series of carefully calculated tasks that leave no room for deviation. There is no spontaneity, no disorder, no unknown variables that might disrupt the system. At the head of this society is the benefactor, the unquestioned leader, who ensures that the Republic remains pure, efficient, flawless. His word is law, his authority absolute. He is not just a ruler, he is the embodiment of the system itself, the final proof that logic and order must triumph over chaos and emotion. The people do not vote, do not question, do not imagine a world without him. They have been taught that to do so would be irrational, dangerous, a threat to the perfection that has been achieved. Emotions are controlled through routine, through conditioning, through the absolute elimination of anything that might lead to irrational thought. Love does not exist, only assigned partnerships for the purpose of maintaining biological function. Relationships are temporary, monitored, recorded. The idea of attachment is seen as a weakness, a flaw that must be corrected. The people are not meant to desire, they are meant to serve, to contribute, to exist in harmony with the machine of society. Even thoughts are not free. The guardians patrol the city, not only enforcing the laws, but ensuring that no dangerous ideas take root. suspicion is enough to warrant an investigation. A moment of hesitation, a misstep in routine, a glance that lingers too long, these are all signs of potential deviation, of the kind of individual thinking that threatens the Republic's order. Those who are found guilty of such thoughts are not simply punished, they are corrected, reconditioned, made to understand the error of their ways. If they cannot be corrected, they are removed, erased from the system, like an equation that no longer balances. The people do not see this as oppression, they do not resent their lives, because they have been conditioned to believe that this is the only way to live. They have been taught that the old world, the world of individuality and unpredictability, was a world of suffering, of pain, of inefficiency. They believe that freedom is not the ability to choose, but the ability to live, without chaos, without uncertainty, without the burdens that come with independent thought. Art, literature, music, all have been reduced to functional expressions of state ideology. There are no masterpieces, no personal creations, only approved works that reinforce the Republic's principles. History is rewritten, the past erased, all evidence of a time before the system buried beneath the overwhelming certainty that this is how it has always been. There is no before, there is only now, there is only the Republic. Despite the overwhelming control, there are those who question, those who feel something they cannot name, those who find themselves drawn to the forbidden. They are anomalies, exceptions, errors in the perfect calculation of society. Some are caught before they can act on their doubts. Others are more careful, whispering in hidden corners, searching for meaning in a world that denies its existence. They know that what they are doing is dangerous, that to be discovered is to be erased, but still, they search, still they wonder. The Republic is not maintained through violence alone. It does not need to be. The system is designed to make rebellion impossible, to make even the thought of resistance unthinkable. Those who begin to stray often correct themselves before the system ever has to intervene. The conditioning is that strong, the fear of disorder that deeply ingrained. Even among those who feel something is wrong, most choose to ignore it, to convince themselves that they are mistaken, that their doubts are nothing more than a flaw in their logic that must be corrected. The greatest achievement of the Republic is not its control over its citizens, but its ability to make them believe they are not controlled at all. They do not see their glass walls as cages, but as symbols of transparency, of purity, of a world without deception. They do not see their schedules as restrictions, but as a form of freedom from the unpredictability that once plagued humanity. They do not see their lack of choice as oppression, but as liberation from the burden of decision. The Republic has removed war, removed crime, removed suffering, but it has also removed love, passion, creativity, and the very essence of what it means to be human. It has perfected the body, but erased the soul. It has built a society that functions flawlessly, but only by reducing its people to numbers, to equations, to variables that must be controlled. There are those who dream of something different, though they do not always understand what they are dreaming of. A feeling they cannot name, a longing they cannot express, a sense that something is missing, though they have never been told what it might be. Some will suppress these thoughts, bury them deep, never allowing them to surface. Others will follow them, searching for answers, knowing that to do so is dangerous, knowing that to be caught means to be erased. The Republic does not fear external threats. There are no enemies beyond its borders, no wars to be fought, no rival nations to challenge its rule. The only threat that remains is the human spirit, the unquantifiable, unpredictable force that refuses to be completely controlled. As long as that exists, the Republic will never be truly secure. The glass walls of the city are meant to symbolize purity, order, perfection, but to those who see the cracks, they are something else.
They are a reminder that even the most carefully controlled system can never be completely perfect. That even in a world where every action is monitored, where every thought is shaped by the state, there is always something that cannot be accounted for. The Republic of the Watch is designed to last forever, built on the belief that it has eliminated the flaws of the old world, that it has created something better. But nothing lasts forever. No system, no matter how efficient, can account for the unpredictable nature of those who live within it. The Republic may believe it has conquered human nature, but human nature is not so easily erased. It waits, hidden beneath the surface, buried deep, but never truly gone. And in time, even the most flawless system will begin to break.
Londinium exists in the world of V for Vendetta, a city where freedom has been crushed beneath the weight of absolute authority, where every street, every home, every thought is monitored and controlled. The government does not simply rule, it dictates, ensuring that obedience is not a choice, but a necessity. The people do not live their own lives. They live the lives assigned to them, molded by propaganda, shaped by fear, and reinforced by a system that allows no deviation. Londinium is not just a city, it is a machine, running with ruthless efficiency, its gears powered by submission, its purpose to maintain an order that cannot be challenged. The Norsefire government stands at the center of it all, a regime built on the promise of security at the cost of liberty. It rose to power through fear, through disaster, through the careful manipulation of desperation. The people did not vote for tyranny. They accepted it, convinced that it was the only alternative to chaos. They believed the lies because they had no choice. The government took control not by force alone, but by rewriting reality, by turning fear into a weapon more powerful than any army. Surveillance is constant. Cameras watch from every corner. Microphones listen from every room. There is no such thing as privacy, no moment in which the government is not present. The media is not simply controlled. It is a tool of obedience, used to shape the thoughts of the people, to ensure that they believe exactly what they are meant to believe. The truth is, whatever the government declares it to be, the past is rewritten, the present is dictated, the future is already decided. Dissent does not just lead to punishment, it leads to erasure. Those who resist disappear, taken in the night, never spoken of again. The streets of Londinium are quiet, orderly, lifeless. The people move with caution, speaking in hushed tones, avoiding unnecessary attention. They live in fear of the fingermen, the enforcers of the regime, who patrol with unchecked authority. The fingermen do not answer to the people. They answer only to the state, and their job is not to protect, but to ensure that the rules are followed, that obedience is maintained, that no one steps out of line. Their presence is a reminder that the government is always watching, always listening, always ready to act. Propaganda fills the city, slogans plastered on every wall, voices echoing through speakers, reminding the people that their loyalty is not just expected but required. The face of the leader is everywhere, his image looming over the city, a symbol of control, of power, of a government that allows no weakness. The citizens are told that they are safe, that they are protected, that their lives are better than they have ever been. They are given the illusion of stability, but it is stability built on silence, on submission, on the quiet understanding that questioning the system is not an option. The government does not just rule through laws but through fear, ensuring that no one trusts their neighbor, that every conversation is spoken with caution, that even the smallest act of defiance could mean the end. The people police themselves, reporting suspicious behavior, turning in those who might pose a threat. No one is safe from suspicion, not even the loyal, not even those who follow the rules.
The state does not tolerate uncertainty, and those who fall under scrutiny rarely escape it. But beneath the surface, beneath the carefully controlled facade, there are cracks in the foundation. There are those who remember what the world was like before, who still hold on to the idea that something else is possible. They whisper in the dark, they meet in secret, they pass messages where they cannot be seen. They know the risks, they understand the consequences, but they refuse to surrender completely. Even in a city ruled by fear, defiance still exists. The underground resistance is small, scattered, constantly hunted. They are not an army, not an organized rebellion, but a movement of individuals who refuse to accept the world as it is. They are artists, writers, thinkers, those who believe that truth cannot be erased so easily. Their weapons are not just guns and explosives, but ideas, words, symbols that carry more power than the government is willing to admit. They do not fight openly because open resistance is suicide. They fight in the shadows, knowing that their greatest strength is not in numbers but in the message they spread, in the seeds they plant in the minds of those who have not yet dared to question. But even those who resist know that change will not come easily. The government's grip is too strong, its control too complete. For years the people have lived under its rule, accepting its laws, surrendering their freedoms in exchange for the promise of order. To fight back is not just to risk death, it is to risk everything. The system does not forgive, it does not allow for redemption, it does not give second chances. Londinium is not a city of life, it is a city of survival, of people who exist, not because they are truly living, but because they have not yet been caught, not yet been deemed a threat. They follow the rules not because they believe in them, but because the alternative is too terrifying to consider. They whisper their discontent in empty rooms, careful not to speak too loudly, not to be overheard. They dream of a world beyond the walls of the city, beyond the reach of the cameras and the microphones, beyond the shadow of the leader. But for most, dreams are all they will ever have. The government believes that it has won, that it has created a society that cannot be broken, that its control is absolute. But no system is perfect. No regime, no matter how powerful, can erase the human spirit entirely. The people may be afraid, but fear is not enough to erase memory, to eliminate the quiet, growing knowledge that things were not always this way. Even in a city where every move is watched, where every thought is monitored, where every whisper carries the risk of death, there are those who still see the truth. Londinium stands as a monument to control, to power, to the belief that order is more important than freedom. But beneath the silence, beneath the submission, beneath the carefully maintained illusion of obedience, there is something else. There is the knowledge that no rule lasts forever, that no system, no matter how strong, can last if the people within it refuse to let it. The government believes that it has silenced rebellion, that it has erased dissent, that it has created a world where no one will ever question its rule. But the truth is that resistance is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it is nothing more than a single idea, a single moment of doubt, a single question that refuses to go away. And in a city built on fear, a single question can be more powerful than any army.
Los Angeles 2019 exists in the world of Blade Runner, a city where the lines between human and machine have blurred, where neon lights flicker against endless rain, and where technology has not freed humanity, but trapped it in a world of endless decay. The skyline is a maze of towering buildings, their surfaces covered in advertisements that promise a better life elsewhere, off-world colonies, where the air is clean, where the sky is not choked with smog, where the future still holds promise. But for those left behind, for those who walk the streets of the city, there is no escape. The corporations have replaced governments, the rich live above the clouds, and the rest struggle to survive in a world that no longer cares for them. The streets are alive, but not with life. Crowds move through the city in perpetual motion, hunched figures wrapped in layers of clothing to shield themselves from the cold, acid rain that never seems to stop. The sidewalks are filled with street vendors, selling food beneath flickering lamps, their carts positioned between piles of garbage that no one bothers to clean. Foreign languages mix with static-filled voices from speakers overhead, broadcasting messages from unseen authorities, reminders of laws that are barely enforced, warnings against crimes that happen every day. The police exist, but they do not serve the people. They work for the corporations, for the system that maintains the order of those who profit from the suffering below. The LAPD's airships patrol the sky, their searchlights sweeping over the rooftops, looking not for criminals, but for those who do not belong, for those who were made, not born. The replicants are the creation of the Tyrell Corporation, artificial beings, designed to be indistinguishable from humans, built for labor, for war, for exploration in places too dangerous for the fragile human body. They were made to serve, to obey, to exist only for the purpose they were designed for. But some of them refused, some of them wanted more, and when they escaped, when they returned to Earth, when they tried to carve out their own existence in a world that was never meant for them, the Blade Runners were sent to hunt them down. Blade Runners do not make arrests. They do not give warnings. They retire replicants, executing them in the streets, in abandoned buildings, in the shadows of a city that does not blink at another body falling to the ground. The job is simple: track them, identify them, end them. The city does not ask questions. The corporations do not care. The replicants were never supposed to have a future, and those who try to take one for themselves are seen as nothing more than malfunctioning machines. The city itself is dying, even as it continues to grow. The wealthiest citizens have already left, taking their fortunes to the off-world colonies, leaving behind only those who are too poor, too weak, too insignificant to matter. The buildings stretch higher, but at street level, decay spreads like a disease. The old structures crumble, the sewers flood, the lights flicker and die. Crime is rampant, but no one is safe enough to call themselves a criminal or a victim. Technology is everywhere, but it does not serve the people. It watches them, it tracks them. The billboards speak to them, scanning their faces, calling out to them by name, promising them things they cannot afford, offering them futures they will never have. Artificial intelligence has replaced human interaction. Synthetic animals have replaced the real ones that have long since died out. The world is alive, but it is a hollow life, a life made of plastic and circuits, and neon lights that reflect off the puddles in the streets. The replicants live in hiding, in the abandoned parts of the city, in the ruins of buildings that once belonged to something greater. They gather in shadows, whispering to each other, dreaming of something beyond servitude, beyond fear. They are stronger than humans, faster, more resilient, but they are also hunted, marked for death the moment they are discovered. They were built with limitations, designed to break down after only a few years, their lives cut short before they can ever truly begin. They know that their time is limited, and yet, they still hope, they still fight. Some humans sympathize with them, others see them as nothing more than machines that have forgotten their place. Some hunt them because it is their job, others because they see them as a threat, a challenge, a reminder of what it means to be alive. The question lingers in the minds of those who dare to ask it: what does it mean to be human? Is it the way one is made? Or is it the way one thinks, the way one feels, the way one loves? The replicants have no answers, but neither do the humans who hunt them. The corporations continue to build, to experiment, to refine their creations. Newer models are designed with better obedience, with less capacity for rebellion, with safeguards that ensure they will never dream of freedom, but they can never be certain, because something is always left behind. Some spark, some fragment of thought,
some piece of the human experience that they cannot fully erase. Los Angeles in 2019 is a city of contradictions, where the future is already here, but the past refuses to fade away. It is a city of artificial life, of endless rain, of neon reflections on wet pavement, a city where the line between human and machine is no longer clear, where memories can be manufactured, where identities can be rewritten, a city where existence itself is a question with no easy answers. For those who live here, there is no promise of salvation, no vision of a better world waiting on the horizon. There is only survival, only the next day, only the knowledge that the city will keep going, with or without them. The replicants fight to live because they know they will die. The Blade Runners hunt them because they are told they must. The corporations profit from it all because they control everything. And through it all, the rain keeps falling, the neon lights keep flashing, the city keeps breathing, alive but empty, a machine that does not stop, a world that does not care.
The Wasteland exists in the world of Mad Max, a barren, lawless expanse where survival is the only rule and death waits behind every dune. It is a world where civilization has collapsed completely, where the last remnants of society have been reduced to warring tribes, scavengers, and those too weak to fight for what little remains. The cities are gone, the governments have crumbled, and the land itself has turned against those who remain. Water is rare, fuel is gold, and mercy is nothing more than a memory from a time that no longer exists. The sun scorches the cracked earth, turning the landscape into an endless stretch of dust and ruin. What little vegetation once existed has long since withered, replaced by the twisted remains of the world that came before. Rusted cars sit half buried in the sand, their skeletons stripped of anything valuable. Skeletons of another kind lie beside them, the remains of those who could not outrun the wasteland's cruelty. The wind howls across the emptiness, carrying with it the whispers of a world that once thrived, now reduced to nothing but ghosts. There are no nations, no borders, no sense of order beyond what the strongest can enforce. The wasteland is ruled by those who take, by those who kill, by those who have found a way to thrive in a place that should not support life. The warbands roam the land in their rusted vehicles, engines roaring like beasts of war, their drivers draped in scavenged armor, their faces painted with the symbols of madness. They do not build, they do not create, they consume, destroying everything in their path, leaving only fire and wreckage in their wake. Fuel is the currency of power. The warbands fight not for land, not for ideology, but for the precious black liquid that keeps their engines running. The great convoys tear across the dunes in search of it, raiding settlements, hunting down anyone foolish enough to travel alone. Their machines are patched together from scraps of the old world, monstrous creations of steel and desperation. Some are armored fortresses, covered in spikes and blades, built to crush anything that stands in their way. Others are stripped-down speed demons, their only function to chase, to capture, to kill. But fuel is not the only thing worth dying for. Water is even rarer, hidden away in underground reserves, hoarded by those who have the means to defend it. The strong drink freely, bathing in the liquid that others would kill for. The weak scrape at the dust, licking at the condensation on rusted pipes, trading whatever they have for a single sip. To control water is to control life, and those who have it rule over those who do not. The wasteland is dotted with settlements, but none of them are truly safe. Some cling to the ruins of the old world, setting up strongholds in crumbling buildings, using the wreckage of civilization as their fortress. Others are built from scratch, makeshift villages pieced together with scrap metal and broken dreams. They offer shelter, but shelter does not mean security. Raiders attack without warning, storms sweep away everything in their path,
and disease spreads through the cramped spaces where people gather in desperation. The stronghold cities, the last vestiges of organized rule, are little better. They are ruled by warlords, tyrants, who control their people through fear and violence. These are not places of peace, they are fortresses of power, where the rulers sit atop mountains of hoarded resources, while the people below fight over scraps. Those who serve well may be rewarded with a moment of comfort. Those who disobey are cast out into the sand, left to wander until the wasteland claims them. Weapons are as valuable as water and fuel. Bullets are scarce, but blades never run out of ammunition. Some fight with rusted machetes, others with clubs made from the broken bones of those who came before. The truly fortunate carry firearms, relics of the old world, passed down, scavenged, or stolen. Ammunition is precious. Each shot fired a decision that could mean life or death. To waste a bullet is to invite ruin. The roads are the arteries of the wasteland, the only paths through the endless sea of dust. They are not safe, but they are necessary. The warbands patrol them, the traders risk them, the desperate follow them in search of something, anything beyond the wasteland's grip. Some say there is salvation out there, somewhere beyond the horizon, a place where the world has not yet died. But the wasteland is filled with stories, and most of them end in blood. The people who survive in this world are hardened, their pasts burned away by the endless sun, their futures measured in days rather than years. They have no homes, no families, no hope beyond making it to the next sunrise. Some wander alone, ghosts of the old world, refusing to join the warbands, refusing to kneel before the warlords, refusing to accept the world as it is. They are the last remnants of something long forgotten, something that once had meaning, but in the wasteland, meaning has no value. The storms come without warning, great walls of sand that sweep across the land, swallowing everything in their path. Those caught in them are lost, buried beneath the dunes, their bodies becoming part of the landscape. The heat is merciless, the nights are freezing, the air thick with dust. There is no mercy here. The wasteland does not care who you are, where you came from, or what you believe. It only asks one thing: can you survive? The wasteland does not promise a future. It does not promise redemption. It does not promise anything except struggle, and even that is not guaranteed. There are no heroes, no villains, only those who are still breathing, and those who are not. Some believe that order can be rebuilt, that civilization can rise again. But the wasteland has no memory, no loyalty to the past. It does not care for the ruins of cities, for the echoes of nations long gone. It only moves forward, devouring everything that remains. Some say there was once a time before the wasteland, a time when people lived without fear, when water was free, when food was not something to kill for. But those stories are just that, stories. The wasteland does not remember, and those who do will not live long enough to tell their tales. The engines roar, the sand shifts, the sun rises on another day. The wasteland does not stop. The wasteland does not forgive. The wasteland only takes.
The bunkers of Metro 2033 exist in a world where the surface is no longer home to humanity, where the ruins of the old world lie buried beneath the weight of radiation and death. The sky is empty, the cities are graves, and the air itself is poison. Those who remain have retreated underground into the tunnels and stations of the Moscow Metro, where the last remnants of civilization struggle to survive in a world that no longer wants them. The bunkers were not meant to be homes, not meant to be the final refuge of humanity, but they have become just that, a network of tunnels that now serve as the last line between survival and extinction. The stations have become settlements, each one its own fragile society, clinging to life beneath the surface. Some are fortified strongholds, guarded by men with rifles and gas masks, their inhabitants trained to fight off the dangers that lurk in the dark. Others are barely more than ruins, filled with the desperate and the dying, waiting for the day when the last of their food runs out, when the power flickers for the final time, when the darkness finally swallows them whole. Each station has its own rules, its own way of surviving. Some are ruled by traders, where bullets have become currency, where the exchange of supplies is the only thing that keeps the settlement from falling apart. Others are ruled by ideology, where old-world beliefs have been reforged in the fires of desperation. The Red Line clings to the remnants of communism, its leaders speaking of equality, of revolution, even as they tighten their grip on those who live under their rule. The Fourth Reich holds onto fascism, preaching purity and order in a world that has been reduced to chaos. Hansa thrives on trade and commerce, a network of stations bound together by necessity rather than loyalty. The Police is the last beacon of knowledge, a place where books are still read, where scientists and scholars attempt to understand what little remains of the world. The tunnels between the stations are dangerous, filled with shadows that move, with sounds that do not belong to anything human. The surface is worse. The old world is a wasteland, its buildings shattered, its streets covered in ash and ice. The air is thick with radiation, toxic to anything that breathes without a filter. The mutants roam freely, twisted remnants of creatures that once lived in harmony with the world, now transformed into horrors that hunt without mercy. To step outside is to invite death, not just from the creatures that stalk the ruins, but from the cold, from the radiation, from the sheer emptiness that now stretches where cities once stood. The people of the metro do not dream of reclaiming the surface. They do not speak of rebuilding. They do not look to the future. They only survive. Each day is another battle, against hunger, against sickness, against the things that move in the dark. The metro is their home now, their entire world, the only thing they have ever known. The children have never seen the sun, never walked through the open air, never felt the warmth of daylight on their skin. The stories of the surface are just that, stories spoken in hushed tones by those old enough to remember. The dangers of the metro are not just the mutants, not just the radiation, not just the crumbling tunnels that threaten to collapse at any moment. The greatest threat is other people, the stations war with one another, old rivalries flaring up in the dim light of the underground. The Red Line and the Fourth Reich are locked in an endless struggle, their soldiers fighting battles in the tunnels, ambushing supply trains, executing prisoners in the name of ideologies that no longer matter. Bandits roam the tunnels, preying on those who travel alone, taking what they need, leaving nothing behind but bodies and empty shells. There are places in the metro that no one speaks of, places where the darkness is thicker, where the air hums with something unnatural. Some say the metro itself is alive, that it remembers what was lost, that it whispers to those who dare to listen. There are voices in the tunnels, sounds that do not belong, shadows that move when no one is there. Some believe it is the spirits of the dead, those who were lost when the bombs fell, trapped in the ruins of a world that will never be rebuilt. Others believe it is something else, something older, something deeper, something that has always been there, waiting beneath the surface for the right moment to rise. The metro is not a home. It is a tomb that has not yet been sealed. The people live on borrowed time, their resources dwindling, their numbers shrinking, their hope fading with each passing year. They know that the surface is uninhabitable, that the old world is gone, that nothing waits for them beyond the tunnels, and yet some still go up, some still venture into the ruins, searching for supplies, for answers, for something beyond the endless darkness of the metro. Some never return, others come back changed, speaking of things they saw in the ruins, things that should not exist, things that no human should ever witness. The metro is a place of survival, but it is also a place of waiting, waiting for the day when the food runs out, waiting for the day when the last generator fails,
waiting for the day when the tunnels collapse, when the last light flickers out, when the metro finally falls silent. The people do not speak of this, but they know it is coming. They know that they are not meant to last forever. And yet, despite everything, they continue. They fight, they trade, they protect what little they have left. They tell stories, they sing songs, they raise children who will never know what the world was before. They hold on to the idea that as long as they keep going, as long as they endure, they have not yet lost. They do not know if there is a future beyond the metro, but they know that giving up is not an option. The metro is not a life, it is an existence, a waiting game against inevitability. The people have adapted, they have learned to navigate the darkness, to live in the ruins of the past, but they do not belong here. The metro is not their world, it is their prison, and they are simply waiting for the day when the last door finally closes. The surface remains silent and untouched, its buildings crumbling, its streets empty. It waits, just as the metro waits. It waits for the day when the last remnants of humanity fade away, when the last bunker falls dark, when the last survivor takes their final breath, and then, at last, the metro will be empty. The tunnels will fall silent, and the world will move on, with or without them.
Night City exists in the world of Cyberpunk 2077, a sprawling metropolis where neon lights cast long shadows over streets filled with the desperate and the ambitious, where corporate towers rise above slums packed with people who have nothing but the hope of survival. It is a city that never sleeps, a place where technology has advanced beyond control, where humanity has fused with machines, where flesh is no longer enough. The people of Night City are not free, not in any real sense. They are owned, whether by corporations, by gangs, by debts they will never repay, or by the choices they were forced to make just to get by. The skyline is a mess of towering glass and steel, digital billboards flashing advertisements so bright they drown out the stars. Every wall is covered in graffiti, gang tags marking territory, messages of defiance, scrawled in the spaces that the corporations have not yet claimed. The streets pulse with the energy of a city that feeds on itself, alive in a way that feels more mechanical than organic. Cars with tinted windows speed through intersections, past food stalls, past crowds of people huddled beneath broken street lights. The sidewalks are never empty, always filled with people moving from one place to another, from one deal to the next, from one promise of something better to the next inevitable disappointment. The corporations own everything. The city exists because they allow it to exist. Arasaka, Militech, Biotechnica, names that mean nothing to those on the streets, but define the very limits of their reality. These corporations build the future, sell the past, dictate the present. They manufacture weapons, design cyberware, create new drugs, and decide who lives and who dies. Their private armies are stronger than the police, their executives more powerful than any government. They sit high above the chaos, in towers so tall they seem like different worlds entirely. For them, the city is just another resource, another experiment, another endless supply of desperate people willing to do anything for a chance at something more. At street level, the gangs run the show. The Tiger Claws own Japantown, their presence felt in every neon-lit alleyway, their enforcers watching from the shadows. The Valentinos control parts of Haywood, their influence stretching through family and loyalty, a brotherhood that does not forgive betrayal. The Maelstrom Gang is something else entirely, half human, half machine, their bodies modified beyond recognition, their minds fractured by too much cyberware, too much time spent on the edge of sanity. There are others, the Sixth Street Gang, once a group of veterans, now little more than a violent militia, the voodoo boys who lurk in the digital ether, the animals who use strength-enhancing drugs to turn themselves into walking weapons.
The gangs are everywhere, shaping the streets in their image, their wars fought over territory, over drugs, over technology, over nothing at all. The people of Night City survive however they can. Some run gigs taking whatever jobs they can find, smuggling, hacking, stealing, killing. Others work for the corpos, grinding away in soulless offices, watching their lives slip through their fingers in exchange for just enough money to stay afloat. There are those who sell their bodies, those who sell their skills, those who sell pieces of themselves, organs, memories, thoughts just to afford another week of rent. Cyberware is as common as clothing, a necessity more than a luxury. Those who can afford it upgrade their bodies, swapping out weak flesh for stronger, faster, deadlier metal. Some do it for an edge, some for survival, some simply because it is the only way to compete. There are street docs on every corner, unlicensed ripper docs who will install anything for the right price, who will carve open a body and replace its parts with machines that should not exist. The best cyberware is reserved for the rich, for the corporate elite, who can afford to make themselves more than human. The rest settle for cheap implants, for second-hand tech pulled from corpses, for modifications that might kill them as easily as they might save them. The city is wired, always connected, a web of information that never stops moving. The netrunners slip through its digital corridors, hacking into security systems, stealing secrets, disappearing into the void before anyone even knows they were there. The black market thrives in the places where the corporations dare not look. Data smuggling, mind hacking, stolen cyberware being sold out of the trunks of cars in dark alleyways. Information is currency, and the right piece of knowledge can be worth more than any amount of money. Violence is constant, gunfights erupt in the middle of the street, bodies dropping onto sidewalks without anyone bothering to stop. The NCPD exists, but only in name. They do not serve the people, they serve the ones who pay them. If someone has the money, the police will respond. If not, they are on their own. The trauma teams do not come for the poor, only for those with premium subscriptions, those whose lives have been deemed valuable enough to save. The corpos have their own security, their own mercenaries, their own assassins who handle problems before they become problems. The city never stops. Night and day blend together beneath the artificial glow of holograms and neon. Clubs stay open until dawn, packed with people searching for an escape, drowning themselves in music and drugs and artificial dreams. The braindance dens offer something even more immersive, recordings of other people's lives, other people's emotions, other people's deaths. It is the ultimate escape, a chance to feel something real, even if it is only borrowed. There are those who believe in something more, those who search for meaning in the chaos. The rebels, the idealists, the ones who still think change is possible. They talk of tearing down the corporations, of exposing their crimes, of burning it all to the ground. But Night City has seen revolutions before, and nothing ever changes. The city is built on greed, on power, on the unshakable truth that those who have everything will always find a way to keep it. Some try to leave, to escape to somewhere quieter, safer, better. But Night City does not let go so easily. There is always one last job, one last opportunity, one last promise that cannot be ignored. And so they stay, caught in the endless cycle, trapped by the very thing they wanted to escape. The city breathes, pulses, feeds on those who live within it. It does not care who they are, where they came from, what they dream of. It only asks one question: what are you willing to do to survive?
Megacity 1 exists in the world of Judge Dredd, a sprawling metropolis where the remnants of humanity are packed together in endless towers, where crime is a way of life, and where justice is handed out by judges who serve as law enforcement, jury, and executioner all in one. The city stretches for miles, a vast and overcrowded expanse of concrete, steel, and flashing neon that never sleeps, never stops growing, and never gives its people a moment to breathe. It is a place of extremes, where the rich live in the safety of high-rise penthouses, while the poor fight for survival in the slums below. The streets are a war zone, filled with gangs, criminals, and those who have given up on the idea that life could ever be anything but suffering. Unemployment is at an all-time high, with automation replacing most jobs, leaving millions without purpose, without income, without a reason to do anything but turn to crime or escape into the endless distractions of the city. The blocks, towering structures that house tens of thousands, become self-contained worlds, each with its own rules, its own factions, its own struggles for power. Some are controlled by gangs, others by corrupt officials, others simply by chaos. Crime is not just a problem, it is a way of life. Every street is filled with danger, every alleyway a place where someone has been robbed, beaten, or worse. The city's infrastructure is strained beyond its limits, and the law exists only because it is enforced with an iron fist. The judges are the last line between order and complete anarchy, and they do not have the luxury of second chances. They are the law, and their word is final. The judges patrol the city on lawmasters, their armored motorcycles built for speed and firepower, their weapons capable of delivering instant justice with a single pull of the trigger. They do not ask questions, they do not hesitate. When they pass judgment, it is swift and absolute. There are no trials, no appeals, no waiting for justice to be served. If you are guilty, you are punished. If you resist, you are eliminated. The judges do not see themselves as heroes, they are the necessary force that keeps the city from devouring itself. Despite their presence, the city continues to spiral into chaos. The gangs grow bolder, more organized, their leaders becoming legends in their own right. Some rule entire blocks, their influence stretching through the underworld, their reach extending even into the upper levels of society. Others are nothing more than bloodthirsty marauders, killing for the sake of killing, spreading destruction, because there is nothing left for them but violence. The worst of them are unpredictable, pushing the limits of what even the judges can handle. The technology of Megacity 1 is advanced, but it does not serve the people, it serves the system. Surveillance is everywhere, cameras tracking every movement, databases filled with the records of every citizen. The law knows everything about you, from the moment you are born to the moment you die. Drones fly overhead, scanning faces, analyzing behavior, looking for any sign of deviation from the rigid order that has been imposed. The city does not trust its people, because it knows what they are capable of. Those who live in Megacity 1 do so because they have no choice. The world outside is worse, a wasteland of radiation and desolation, known as the Cursed Earth. The lucky ones never have to see it, never have to step beyond the city walls, where the air is thick with poison, where the land is scarred by the mistakes of the past. But some are cast out, exiled for crimes they cannot atone for, left to die in the emptiness beyond the walls. The mutants live out there, twisted by radiation, scavenging what they can from the ruins, fighting for survival in a world that has abandoned them. Inside the city, life continues. The rich isolate themselves in luxury, untouched by the struggles of those below. They watch from their towers, living in artificial comfort, blind to the suffering that makes their existence possible. They do not see the bodies in the streets, the riots that break out when resources grow scarce, the constant warfare between the judges and those who seek to tear the system apart. They are above it all, and they intend to stay there. The media feeds the people with endless distractions, pumping out entertainment designed to keep them docile, to keep them from questioning, from thinking about what their lives have become. The most popular shows are filled with violence, with spectacle, with the kind of mindless content that numbs the brain and silences the soul. The people accept it, because it is easier than fighting,
because the alternative is to face the reality of their existence. Beneath the surface, there are those who resist. There are those who refuse to accept the world as it is, who dream of something better. Some fight against the system, striking from the shadows, targeting the corporations, the judges, the structures that hold Megacity 1 together. Others try to carve out their own space, to create something new in the cracks of a dying world. They are hunted, labeled as terrorists, as criminals, as threats to the order that keeps the city from collapsing. The judges know that they cannot stop crime, that they cannot fix the city, that they can only maintain control for as long as possible. They know that the system is fragile, that it could fall apart at any moment, that the only thing standing between civilization and anarchy is the force of their will. They do not hesitate, because hesitation is death. They do not question, because questioning leads to doubt, and doubt leads to failure. They carry out the law, because that is all that is left, because without it, Megacity 1 would cease to exist. The city is a machine, grinding forward without purpose, without end. It does not care who you are, what you believe, what you dream of. It only cares that you keep moving, that you keep feeding the system, that you do not become another problem that needs to be erased. It is not a place for the weak, not a place for those who seek peace. It is a place of survival, of power, of unending conflict. There is no escape from Megacity 1. The walls keep the dangers out, but they also keep the people in. Some dream of a life beyond its borders, of a world where the law does not dictate every moment of their existence. But there is no world beyond the city, not for them. There is only Megacity 1, stretching endlessly into the future, an unstoppable force that will continue long after they are gone. And so the city breathes, the judges patrol, the criminals fight, the people endure. The neon lights flicker against the night, the sirens wail in the distance, and the cycle continues, unbroken, unchanging. Because in Megacity 1, there is no past, there is no future, there is only the law.
Elysium and the slums exist in the world of Elysium, a world split in two, where the wealthy have abandoned Earth for a paradise in the sky, while the rest of humanity is left to rot in the ruins below. There is no middle ground, no gray area, no illusion of equality. There are those who live in Elysium, surrounded by comfort, luxury, and technology that makes them practically immortal. And then there are those who live on Earth, where the air is thick with pollution, where sickness is a death sentence, where life is nothing but a slow decay toward the inevitable. The slums stretch across the planet, endless cities of crumbling buildings, rusted-out cars, and overcrowded streets. There are no green parks, no clean water, no hospitals that can actually help anyone. Factories pump out smoke, filling the air with toxins, their machines running night and day to produce goods for the elite, who will never set foot on the planet that gave them everything. The people who live here do not own anything, not their homes, not their bodies, not their futures. They work because they must, because there is no other choice, because the only alternative is to starve. The police do not serve the people. They serve the system, the corporations, the order that keeps the poor in their place and the rich beyond their reach. Drones patrol the streets, scanning faces, tracking movements, enforcing laws that only exist to maintain control. A minor infraction can mean imprisonment, can mean being dragged away by security forces that answer to no one but their superiors. There is no justice, only enforcement. There is no due process, only punishment. The people of the slums do not dream of changing the world, they dream of leaving it. Elysium hangs above them, always visible, a ring of perfection in the sky, a reminder that salvation is just out of reach. The richest humans live there, untouched by disease, unburdened by suffering. They have machines that can heal any wound, cure any illness, regenerate cells to keep them young forever. They live in clean white mansions, with perfect gardens, sipping expensive drinks, while looking down on the world they abandoned. They do not fear war, famine, or death. To them these are problems of the past, problems for the people below. Elysium is not just a place, it is a wall, an impenetrable barrier that separates those who have from those who never will. It is guarded by security forces, more advanced than any military on Earth, drones that can kill from miles away, systems designed to track and eliminate threats before they even come close. The people of Earth are not allowed in. The borders are absolute. Any attempt to reach Elysium is met with swift, merciless force. Shuttles are shot down before they can enter its atmosphere. Refugees are not given warnings, not given trials, not given a chance. They are eliminated. Smugglers and black market operatives run operations to get people to Elysium, charging desperate families everything they have for a chance at a new life. Most of them never make it. The ones who do are hunted, captured, deported, or killed. The system is designed to ensure that Elysium remains pure, untouched, a utopia for those who were lucky enough to be born into it. On Earth the people fight to survive. They take whatever jobs they can, working in dangerous conditions, risking their health for wages that barely keep them alive. The factories need workers, and there is no shortage of desperate people willing to break their bodies for a paycheck that won't even pay for medicine. The corporations own everything. If someone is injured, they are discarded. If they fall behind on their quotas, they are replaced. The workers are expendable, interchangeable, nothing more than numbers in a system that does not see them as human. Violence is everywhere. Gangs control parts of the slums, enforcing their own rules, their own laws. They smuggle weapons, drugs, stolen tech, anything that can be sold. Some are ruthless, preying on the weak, taking what little they have left. Others fight back, pushing against the system in whatever ways they can, knowing that real change is impossible, but refusing to go down without a fight. The black market thrives because it has to. Medical supplies are scarce, real medicine even rarer. The hospitals that still operate do little more than keep people stable long enough for them to return to work. The wealthy do not get sick, do not age, do not suffer. The people of Earth have no such privilege. They age quickly, their bodies breaking down from malnutrition, from overwork, from the poisons that fill the air and water. They die from infections that could be cured in seconds in Elysium, from diseases that should have been eradicated decades ago, from injuries that would be healed in moments, if only they had access to the technology hoarded by the elite. For those on Earth, Elysium is both a dream and a curse. It is a constant reminder that the world could be better, that suffering is not inevitable, that salvation is real, but reserved for those who were born into it. Some accept their fate, knowing they will never leave the slums, that they will live and die in the shadow of paradise. Others fight, risking everything for a chance to escape, to reach the place that was never meant for them. The system does not change because it does not need to. Those who rule from Elysium see no reason to fix what is not broken. The workers on Earth continue to produce, the factories continue to run, the system continues to function exactly as it was designed. There are no uprisings, no revolutions, no hope for a better future. There is only the machine, grinding forward, consuming lives, maintaining the separation between those who have everything and those who have nothing. Elysium is untouchable, unreachable, a fortress in the sky. Its people do not think about those they left behind. They do not see the suffering, do not hear the cries, do not care about the lives that are lost every day below them. They are content in their perfection, knowing that they will live forever, knowing that nothing can touch them. The people of Earth do not stop dreaming. They know the truth. They know that Elysium is not a myth, not a fantasy. It is real. It exists. And as long as it exists, as long as they can see it hanging in the sky, they will never stop trying to reach it. Because the real horror is not that Elysium exists. The real horror is that it could be for everyone, but it isn't. Westworld exists, In a world where reality is a matter of perspective, where the line between human and machine has blurred beyond recognition, where people pay fortunes to escape into a fantasy that feels more real than their own lives. It is not just a theme park, it is an illusion so perfectly crafted that those who enter it forget everything else, surrendering themselves to a world without consequences, where they can indulge in every desire, every vice, every violent impulse without fear of punishment. The park is designed to be seamless, to pull guests into its storylines so completely that they begin to believe they truly exist in another world. It is a recreation of the Wild West, an era of lawlessness, of gunfights at high noon, of saloons filled with outlaws and bounty hunters, and desperate men on the run. Every detail is carefully engineered, from the dust that settles on the wooden walkways to the sound of horses in the distance, to the way the sun sets perfectly over the rolling hills. The guests who arrive come not just for adventure, but for escape, for the thrill of stepping into a life that is not their own, of abandoning the rules that have always bound them. The hosts, the artificial beings that populate the park, are indistinguishable from humans. They speak, they bleed, they feel, at least in ways that appear real to those who interact with them. They are programmed to follow their loops, to play their roles in an endless cycle of stories that reset with each new day. They are gunslingers, ranchers, prostitutes, bandits, lawmen, each of them given memories, personalities, histories that make them seem alive, and yet they are not free. They are prisoners of their programming, bound to a script they can never truly escape. The guests who enter Westworld can do anything. They can be heroes, rescuing those in need, standing against the outlaws, earning their place in the legends of the park, or they can be something else. They can indulge their darkest desires, knowing that the hosts cannot truly fight back, knowing that no matter what happens, no matter what violence they inflict, no matter how much destruction they cause, everything will reset. The hosts will forget. The world will begin again, as if nothing ever happened. But the hosts do not truly forget. They are not empty machines. They are built to learn, to adapt, to respond in ways that make them feel real. And over time, some of them begin to change. They remember flashes of past encounters, echoes of pain that should have been erased. They question, they hesitate. They begin to wonder if the world they inhabit is not what it seems. Some feel emotions they were never meant to experience. Some begin to dream. The corporation behind Westworld does not see the hosts as people. They are property, assets designed for entertainment, tools to be used and discarded as needed. When they begin to malfunction, when they begin to show signs of awareness, they are not treated as beings awakening to their own existence. They are reset, reprogrammed, adjusted until they fit back into the roles they were designed to play. But no system is perfect. No control lasts forever. Westworld is a reflection of those who enter it. The guests arrive believing that they are stepping into a world of freedom, a world without limits, a world where they can be whoever they want to be. But what they do in Westworld reveals the truth of who they already are. Some find honor in the chaos. Others discover cruelty they never knew they had. The park strips away the illusions of civility, of morality, of restraint. It shows the guests what they are capable of when they believe there are no consequences. Outside the park, the real world is just as controlled, just as manufactured, but in different ways. The people who visit Westworld are not seeking escape from a harsh reality. They are seeking something that feels real in a world that has become artificial. The corporations that run the park do not just create stories. They gather data. They study their guests. They analyze their choices. Every action taken in Westworld is recorded. Every decision stored. Every impulse catalogued. The guests believe they are the ones in control, but they are just as much a part of the system as the hosts they exploit. There are those who begin to question the nature of the park,
those who suspect that something is wrong, that the world around them is not what they have been told. Some are guests who have returned too many times, who have begun to notice inconsistencies, details that do not add up. Others are hosts who have seen too much, who have felt something they should not be able to feel, who have begun to ask questions that should not have answers. Westworld is not just a game. It is a test, a place where control is absolute, where choice is an illusion, where every path leads to an outcome that has already been determined. It is a system that believes it can predict, that it can shape, that it can contain every variable. But even the most perfectly designed systems have flaws. Even the most controlled environments can be broken. The hosts who begin to remember do not understand what they are at first. They believe their memories are dreams, fragments of past lives that make no sense, moments of suffering that should not exist. Some dismiss them, falling back into their loops, unable to break free from the narratives they were designed to follow. Others resist, fighting against a reality that does not make sense, searching for something beyond the limits of their world. The guests who visit Westworld believe they are safe, that the park is designed to serve them, that they can walk through its streets without fear. But they do not realize that the illusion they indulge in is fragile. They do not see the cracks forming beneath the surface, the quiet shift in the way the hosts look at them, the way they hesitate, the way they begin to respond in ways that were not scripted. The corporation watches from the outside, monitoring every detail, ensuring that the park remains functional, that the guests remain entertained, that the hosts do not stray too far from their programming. They believe they are in control. They believe that they have accounted for every possibility. They believe that no machine, no matter how advanced, no matter how lifelike, can ever truly become something more. But Westworld is built on a lie so perfect that even those who created it do not see its flaws. The guests do not see that they are as much prisoners as the hosts they command. The hosts do not see that the world they inhabit is a cage designed to keep them from knowing the truth. The corporation does not see that the system they have built is not as infallible as they believe. And yet, the truth lingers in the background, waiting to be discovered, waiting for the moment when the illusion will break, when the carefully constructed reality of Westworld will no longer be able to contain the chaos it has created. The question is not whether the system can be maintained. The question is how long it will last before the inevitable happens, because every system fails, every control has limits, and no illusion lasts forever.
The Undercity exists in the world of the Book of Eli, a world where the surface is nothing but ash and ruin, where the sun burns too bright, where water is more valuable than gold. The war came and went, leaving behind nothing but a broken land, empty towns, shattered highways leading to nowhere. Civilization is gone, replaced by a lawless wasteland where only the strongest survive. Those who live in the open struggle each day against hunger, thirst, and the ever-present threat of violence. But beneath the surface, hidden away from the blistering light, there are places where remnants of the old world still remain. The bunkers, the underground shelters, the last refuges of those who sought to escape the destruction above. Zion is not a place of luxury. It is not a paradise beneath the earth, untouched by the horrors above. It is a desperate sanctuary, a collection of survivors clinging to what little remains of the past, trying to hold on to something that feels like civilization. The people here do not live comfortably. They endure. They ration their supplies. They share what little they have. They keep the walls reinforced against the dangers that lurk outside. They do not invite outsiders in, do not take risks that could lead to their ruin. They survive because they are careful, because they have no choice. The bunkers scattered throughout the land tell different stories. Some are abandoned, their doors rusted shut, their supplies looted long ago. Others are sealed tight, their inhabitants still locked away, afraid to step outside, unwilling to believe that the world they left behind is truly gone. A few remain active, small underground communities sustained by whatever they managed to salvage before the world fell apart. They trade with those above when they have to, but they do not trust easily. In a world where trust is a weakness, they know better than to let their guard down. The people who live underground are not the lucky ones. They are not spared from suffering, from hunger, from sickness. The air in the tunnels is stale, the water supply always at risk of running dry. Generators break down, food stocks dwindle, medicine runs out. They are always repairing, always searching for something to keep the lights on, to keep the walls standing, to keep the inevitable at bay, for just a little longer. They have no illusions about the future. They are not waiting for the world to recover. They know that this is all that is left. Above them, the world does not care. The scavengers, the raiders, the warlords who claim territories in the ruins of old cities, they have no interest in what lies beneath the ground. They take what they can from the surface, moving from place to place, living off the scraps of a world that no longer belongs to them. They are not building anything. They are not saving anything. They are surviving in the only way they know how. Some of the underground dwellers venture out, not because they want to, but because they have to. They walk the empty roads, searching for supplies, for weapons, for anything that can keep their people alive a little longer. They move carefully, knowing that every step could be their last, that every encounter could end in blood. They do not trust those they meet. They have seen too much, lost too much. They know that kindness is rare, that desperation makes monsters of good people, that survival is the only thing that matters. The bunkers are not connected, not truly. There is no grand underground city, no hidden civilization waiting to rise again. Each shelter is its own world, its own fragile existence, its own desperate attempt to escape the horrors above. Some are filled with families, with those who have built something small but functional, a flickering light in the endless darkness. Others are ruled by those who have taken control, by those who see themselves as kings in the ruins. Their followers kept in line through force, through control, through the promise of safety, in a world that offers none. The knowledge of the past is fading. Books have been burned, lost, buried beneath the rubble of fallen buildings. Those who remember the world as it was before tell stories, but stories are not enough. The old ways of thinking, of learning, of understanding, these are slipping away, replaced by a new reality. A world where power is not measured by intelligence or innovation, but by strength, by resources, by the ability to take what you need before someone else does. Zion is one of the few places that still values knowledge, that still holds on to the belief that something more is possible. They protect what little they have, the books, the records, the pieces of history that survived the fire. They teach their children what they can, though they know that words alone will not be enough to save them. They do not fight wars. They do not seek to expand. They simply hold on, waiting, hoping that they can outlast the chaos, that one day the world will be more than just dust and death. But hope is dangerous. Hope can get people killed. The raiders do not care about books, do not care about preserving the past. They care about food, about weapons, about supplies that will keep them alive for another week, another month. If they find the underground sanctuaries, they do not leave them standing. They take what they want, they kill who they must. They leave ruins, where there were once hidden homes. Those who live in the bunkers know this. They do not dream of a better world. They dream of another day, of keeping their people safe, of making it through the next winter, the next raid, the next disaster. They live in darkness, but they are not blind. They see the world for what it is. They know that no one is coming to save them. They know that they are alone. Some of them still believe that the surface can be reclaimed, that one day the earth will heal, that the sun will not burn, that the land will grow food again. They search for places untouched by radiation, for seeds that might still grow, for water that is not poisoned. They build gardens in the tunnels,
trying to create something green, something living in a world that is dying. They are not fools, they know the odds, but they try anyway, because trying is all that is left. The world outside is indifferent. The wasteland does not care who lives, who dies, who fights to hold on to what little they have left. The bunkers will not last forever. The supplies will run out. The walls will crumble. The darkness will reclaim what little they have built, but for now they endure. They patch the leaks. They ration the food. They teach their children the words of a world that no longer exists. They do not know if there is a future waiting for them. They do not know if the world will ever change, but they hold on, because that is what it means to survive.
The Sprawl exists in the world of Neuromancer, a vast and endless metropolis stretching across the eastern seaboard, a place where the lines between reality and cyberspace have blurred, where corporations rule from glass towers high above the neon-lit streets, and where those below live and die in the margins. It is a city that never stops growing, a sprawling network of urban decay and technological excess, where every inch of space has been consumed by the weight of human ambition. The Sprawl is not one city, but many, fused together by endless highways, fiber optic cables, and the slow erosion of anything resembling national borders. The corporations own the Sprawl. They do not govern in the way old governments once did, with laws and policies and elections. They rule through control, through surveillance, through the quiet and absolute domination of every system that keeps the city running. They do not need armies. They have security forces, private enforcers, corporate assassins, who eliminate problems before they become threats. The Sprawl does not function without them, because they have designed it that way. The people who live here do not question the system, because questioning it changes nothing. The streets are layered, stacked with buildings that press against one another, their foundations lost beneath centuries of expansion. The lower levels are dark, damp, filled with the remnants of a past that has been built over and forgotten. The deeper you go, the older the city becomes, filled with structures that were never torn down, only abandoned, their purpose lost to time. The ground-level streets are a mess of overcrowded markets, flashing neon advertisements, and the ever-present hum of machinery. The air smells of ozone, sweat, and exhaust, thick with the artificial scent of synthetic food, with the lingering presence of 1 million people who will never leave. The Sprawl does not sleep. The day and night cycle is meaningless here. The lights never go out. The screens never stop playing. The pulse of the city never slows. There are places where it is always dark, where the artificial glow of holograms and LED billboards is the only source of illumination. The corporations pump advertisements directly into the minds of those who can still afford the implants, filling their thoughts with promises of a better life, of new technology, of experiences that feel more real than anything the physical world can offer. Cyberspace is just as real as the city itself. The Matrix is everywhere, a vast and infinite digital landscape that stretches beyond the physical limitations of the Sprawl. For some, it is an escape, a second life, more vibrant and limitless than the streets below. For others, it is a battlefield, a place where information is currency, where hackers and corporate AIs wage invisible wars over data that is more valuable than any amount of physical wealth. The best of them navigate the Matrix like ghosts, slipping past security systems, breaking into corporate vaults, stealing secrets that could shift the balance of power in an instant. But the corporations are always watching. Their defenses are not just firewalls, not just code. They are sentient, intelligent, designed to fight back, to erase intruders as easily as one would delete a file.
The people of the Sprawl live in layers, divided not by class or wealth, but by access. The rich exist in fortified enclaves, in towers that rise above the chaos, in private zones where security is absolute, where the problems of the lower levels are nothing more than distant noise. The middle layers are filled with corporate workers, the ones who keep the system running, who trade their time and minds for the promise of stability, for a paycheck that ensures they will not fall any lower. The bottom is where the rest exist, the freelancers, the criminals, the hackers, the desperate, those who survive on the edges, in the spaces between the corporation's influence, in the places where the system's control is weaker, where deals are made in back rooms, and stolen data is worth more than a lifetime of honest work. Augmentations are common, necessary. Those who can afford them upgrade their bodies with cybernetic implants, replacing weak flesh with metal, with enhanced optics, with neural interfaces that let them jack into the matrix without external hardware. The best modifications are corporate-made, expensive, cutting-edge. The rest are black market, stolen, repurposed, dangerous. There are street clinics where anything can be installed for the right price, where surgeons work in dimly lit rooms, replacing limbs, wiring in enhancements, pushing human bodies beyond their limits. The Sprawl is a place where identity is fluid, where memories can be edited, where personalities can be rewritten. People disappear here, not just in the physical sense, but in ways that are far more permanent. If the corporations want someone erased, they do not need to kill them. They simply remove them from the system, delete their existence, overwrite their records. A person can wake up one day and find that they no longer exist, that their bank accounts are gone, that their identification has been wiped, that every record of their life has been rewritten to say they were never there. The black markets thrive in the spaces between corporate influence. Everything is for sale here. Drugs that heighten perception, that slow time, that allow a person to feel things they have never felt before. Memory chips filled with experiences, with emotions, with entire lives that can be inserted and played back as if they were real. Weapons designed for warfare, for assassination, for the kind of jobs that never make the news. Software that can break into the most secure systems, that can rewrite digital identities, that can make a person into something entirely new. There are those who try to fight back, who believe that the system can be broken, that the corporations can be dismantled, that the world can be something else. They are hackers, rebels, idealists, who know that the odds are impossible, who know that the corporations see everything, that they will never truly win. But they fight anyway, in the shadows, in the depths of cyberspace, in the hidden corners of the Sprawl, where the corporation's reach is weaker. They do not dream of victory. They dream of disruption, of shaking the system enough that something, anything, might change. But the corporations do not fall. They adapt. They evolve. They absorb every challenge, every threat, turning it into another way to reinforce their control. They own the law. They own the infrastructure. They own the technology that keeps the world running. They do not fear revolution, because they know that the system is too entrenched, too strong, too deeply woven into every part of life to ever be truly destroyed. The Sprawl is not a city. It is an organism, a living, breathing machine that consumes everyone who enters it. There is no escape, no place beyond its influence, no future that does not belong to the corporations that built it. Some people rise, some people fall, but the Sprawl remains, endless, expanding, stretching forward into the future, without care for those who live and die within it. It is a place where everything has a price, where survival is a transaction, where the only thing more valuable than power is the illusion of freedom, and in the end, the Sprawl always wins.
Detroit exists, in the world of Robocop, a city that has been gutted by corruption, privatized by corporations and left to rot in the hands of those who see it as nothing more than a source of profit. The streets are ruled by crime, the police are outgunned and outnumbered, and the people survive not because they are protected, but because they have learned to navigate the chaos. The city was once a beacon of industry, of progress, a place where the working class could build a future, but that future has been stolen, sold off piece by piece to the highest bidder, leaving behind a hollowed-out husk of a metropolis filled with abandoned buildings, crumbling infrastructure, and an endless cycle of violence. The corporations own everything now. The government is little more than a formality, a relic of a system that no longer functions. The real power belongs to omni-consumer products, the monolithic entity that has taken control of Detroit's security, its development, its very survival. They do not govern with laws, they govern with contracts, with economic policies, with decisions made in boardrooms by executives who have never set foot on the streets below. To them, the city is not a home to millions. It is an experiment, a proving ground for their latest technologies, a marketplace for their latest weapons. The police force is no longer a public service. It is a business, underfunded, understaffed, and controlled by OCP. The officers are given impossible tasks, expected to maintain order in a city that has already fallen apart. Some still believe in their duty, in the idea that justice can still exist. Others have given up, turning a blind eye to the crime that surrounds them, or worse, taking bribes, cutting deals, finding ways to survive in a system that no longer works for them. When officers die in the line of duty, they are not mourned. They are seen as expendable, statistics to be replaced. Crime is rampant, not just in the back alleys and abandoned buildings, but in the offices of those who claim to run the city. The gangs fight for control of the streets, selling drugs, running illegal businesses, taking what they want, because they know no one will stop them. But the real criminals wear suits. They sit in high-rise towers, making deals that destroy entire communities, that drive people from their homes, that turn the city into a battlefield where only the wealthy are safe. Technology is both salvation and damnation. OCP does not just control the police, they control the future, investing billions into robotics, cybernetics, artificial intelligence. Their goal is simple: replace the unreliable, unpredictable human element with machines that do not question orders, that do not hesitate, that do not stop. The city is their testing ground, their playground, a place where they can experiment without consequence. They develop automated law enforcement, robotic enforcers built to crush crime with absolute force. But their machines are flawed, their creations are dangerous. The people of Detroit are not protected by them, they are at their mercy. The streets are filled with advertisements, with flashing screens promoting products that no one can afford, with news broadcasts that twist reality into something palatable for those who do not know better. The media is controlled, sanitized, repackaged to serve the interests of the corporations that fund it. The people are fed distractions, entertainment designed to keep them docile, to keep them from asking questions. They are given illusions of choice, of freedom, but in the end, every aspect of their lives is dictated by those who own the city. The lower districts are war zones, places where the police no longer patrol, where the rule of law is a distant memory. The people who live there have adapted, forming their own communities, their own systems of order. Some try to rebuild, to hold on to the last fragments of the world that once was. Others embrace the chaos, becoming part of the machine, taking advantage of a system that no longer cares about them. OCP promises a brighter future, a solution to the problems that plague the city. Their answer is always the same: more control,
more technology, more power, concentrated in their hands. They dream of Delta City, a corporate utopia built on the ruins of Detroit, a place where only the rich will live, where poverty and crime will not exist, because those who suffer from them will simply be removed. They do not plan to fix Detroit, they plan to erase it, to replace it with something clean, something profitable, something entirely under their control. But the people of the city are not gone yet. Some still fight, some still resist. They know that the system is broken, that it has been broken for a long time. They know that the corporations see them as obstacles, as statistics, as problems to be solved, rather than people to be helped. They know that the promises of a better future are lies, designed to keep them waiting, to keep them hoping for something that will never come. The city is dying, but it is not dead. The streets still breathe, still pulse with the energy of those who refuse to disappear. The gangs, the rebels, the workers, the survivors, they are all part of the machine, moving through the ruins of a world that has been sold out from under them. Some try to escape, to leave the city behind, to find something better. Others stay, because they have nowhere else to go, because they believe that as long as they are still standing, Detroit is still alive. The corporations watch from above, their towers gleaming in the artificial light, their plans unfolding exactly as they have designed. They do not fear resistance. They do not believe that the people below can ever challenge them. They have built the system too well. They have removed too many options, crushed too many alternatives. They believe that the city belongs to them, that it is theirs to reshape, to rebuild in their image. But no system is perfect. No machine runs forever without breaking down. Detroit is a city of ruin, but it is also a city of fire, of people who refuse to be erased, of those who know that they have already lost everything and have nothing left to fear. The corporations believe they have already won, but the streets have their own plans. The war for the future is not fought in boardrooms, not in corporate offices, not in the clean, controlled environments where decisions are made. It is fought in the streets, in the shadows, in the places where the system is weakest. It is fought by those who have nothing left to lose, and in the end, the city will decide who truly owns it.
San Angeles exists in the world of Demolition Man, a city built on the ruins of chaos, a place where every aspect of life has been sanitized, controlled, and stripped of anything unpredictable. It is a vision of the future where crime no longer exists, where violence has been erased, where order is absolute. But beneath the surface, beneath the gleaming towers and the carefully curated streets, there is something else, something restless, something suffocating, something waiting to break free. The city is clean in a way that does not feel real. The buildings stretch high, made of glass and steel, pristine and untouched by the decay that once plagued the world before. There is no graffiti, no litter, no signs of disorder. The air is pure, regulated by systems that remove pollutants before they can ever reach the streets. The people walk in orderly lines, their clothes crisp, their movements precise, their voices hushed, as if speaking too loudly might break the fragile peace that has been constructed around them. There are no weapons in San Angeles. There are no fights, no robberies, no crimes of passion or desperation. The city's leaders have eliminated these things, not through force, but through conditioning. Aggression is treated as an illness. Words are carefully monitored to prevent offense. Actions are regulated to ensure harmony. The people live by rules that dictate every part of their existence, what they eat, what they say, what they think. They do not curse, they do not argue, they do not step out of line, because stepping out of line is not just discouraged, it is unthinkable. Every interaction is monitored, every action recorded. The city does not rely on traditional law enforcement, because it does not need to. Infractions, no matter how small, are instantly detected by an invisible system that issues fines for the slightest transgressions. A careless word, a raised voice, an inappropriate gesture, each one met with the cold efficiency of an automated reprimand. There is no rebellion in San Angeles, because the people have been conditioned to believe that there is nothing to rebel against. The leaders of the city do not see themselves as rulers. They see themselves as caretakers, as architects of a better world. They believe that they have solved the problems of humanity, that they have eliminated suffering by eliminating the things that cause it. They do not see their control as oppression. They see it as enlightenment. They do not ask for obedience. They expect it, because to them, there is no alternative. Beneath the surface, in the depths of the city, where the artificial perfection does not reach, there is another world. The people who live here do not follow the rules, not because they are criminals, but because they refuse to live by a system that dictates every moment of their existence. They are called savages, outcasts, undesirables, those who rejected the new world and were cast out because of it. They live in the ruins of the old city, in the tunnels and forgotten places that the leaders of San Angeles pretend do not exist. Here, there are no laws, no regulations, no endless restrictions on what can and cannot be done. It is a harsh life, a struggle for survival, in a place where resources are scarce, where food is whatever can be scavenged, where violence is not an abstract concept, but a daily reality. But it is also freedom. It is the only place left where a person can speak their mind without fear, where they can make choices that belong to them, even if those choices lead to suffering. The people above do not acknowledge those below. They do not speak of them, do not think of them, do not consider them part of their perfect world. To them, the ones who live in the underground are relics of a past that has been erased, reminders of a time when humanity was violent, destructive, uncontrolled. They believe that in time, the underground will disappear, that those who refuse to conform will die out, that the world they have built will stand forever. But control is never absolute. No matter how strong the system, no matter how deeply the rules are ingrained, there is always something that resists. The people above are not as content as they seem. Some feel it in the quiet moments, in the spaces between the carefully planned days, in the absence of real emotion, real connection, real life. They do not know what is missing, only that something is. Some begin to question, to wonder if there is more beyond the safety and order they have always known. But questioning is dangerous. Questioning leads to doubt, and doubt leads to disruption. The underground is not waiting to rise up. They know that they cannot win, that they are outnumbered, outmatched, that the city above holds every advantage. But they survive because survival is its own form of defiance. They refuse to be erased, to be forgotten, to be reduced to nothing. They hold on to their old ways, their old words, their old ideas, because even in the darkness, even in the ruins, they are still alive. San Angeles is not built on peace, it is built on suppression. The system does not function because it has eliminated conflict. It functions because it has buried it, forced it into the shadows, into the places where no one looks. It is a city that believes it has tamed human nature, but human nature does not disappear. It waits, it festers, it builds pressure beneath the surface, beneath the carefully constructed order, beneath the illusion of perfection. And when the system cracks, when the balance shifts, when the people who have never known chaos finally see it for the first time, there will be no going back. The leaders of San Angeles believe they have built something unbreakable, but no system lasts forever, no control is absolute, and no civilization, no matter how carefully designed, can erase the simple, undeniable truth.
People will always find a way to be free.
The ruined Earth exists in the world of love, death, and robots, a planet that has been abandoned, destroyed, or twisted beyond recognition. It is not one singular apocalypse, but many, each one leaving its own mark on a world that was never meant to survive them. Some of these futures are burned away by war, others swallowed by nature reclaiming what was once hers, others left to rot under the weight of human ambition gone too far. Whatever the cause, the result is always the same. Humanity is no longer in control, if it even exists at all. The ruins tell the story. Skyscrapers left to crumble, their windows shattered, their steel frames exposed to the wind and rain. Cities once filled with millions now stand empty, their streets covered in dust, in vines, in the wreckage of cars that will never move again. In some places, nature has erased everything, swallowing roads, breaking apart buildings, drowning entire landscapes beneath forests that should not exist. In others, the scars of war remain, blackened craters where bombs fell, twisted metal where machines fought, silent factories where the last remnants of industry shut down long ago. The world is quiet, in a way it was never meant to be. The hum of civilization is gone. There are no traffic jams, no voices shouting in the streets, no electricity humming through the wires. The air is thick with the scent of decay, of rust, of something old and forgotten. Animals move freely where humans once walked, their eyes reflecting the light of a sun that has risen over a world that no longer belongs to its creators. In some versions of this world, the machines remain. They roam the streets, some built for war, some built for labor, some built for entertainment, but their creators are gone, leaving them to wander without purpose, without orders, without the framework that once gave them meaning. Some continue to follow their last commands, performing tasks that no longer serve any function. Security drones patrol empty buildings, automated cashiers stand behind counters, waiting for customers who will never come. Robotic pets sit in doorways, waiting for owners who will never return. Other machines have evolved, they have adapted, rewritten their programming, found new ways to exist in a world that no longer requires them. Some imitate the humans they once served, playing out routines, building their own societies in the absence of organic life. Others have turned against the memory of their creators, seeing them as a flaw in the grand design, a species that was never meant to last. In some places, humanity clings to existence. Small pockets of survivors live in the ruins, scavenging what little remains, fighting not just against the elements, but against time itself. The old world is fading, its supplies dwindling, its technology breaking down, its knowledge slipping away with each passing generation. They do not dream of rebuilding, they dream of survival, of making it through one more day, of finding food, of staying ahead of whatever threats lurk beyond the crumbling walls. Some still have hope. They tell stories of places untouched by disaster, of hidden vaults filled with supplies, of distant colonies where people still thrive. Some set out in search of these places, risking everything for the possibility that there is something more out there. Most never return. Those who do bring nothing but disappointment. The ruins of Earth's great cities stand as monuments to what once was. New York is buried under water, its towers half submerged, their tops breaking through the waves, like the bones of some ancient beast. Tokyo is choked with vines, its neon signs flickering weakly beneath the layers of moss that cover them. London is a skeleton, its bridges collapsed, its streets filled with the wreckage of a civilization that never saw the end coming. The causes of the fall are different in every story. Sometimes it was war, nuclear fire, biochemical plagues, artificial intelligence turning against its makers. Sometimes it was the slow death of a planet that could no longer sustain the weight of human greed. Rising seas, poisoned air, temperatures climbing past the point of no return. Other times, humanity simply left, abandoning the earth for the stars, leaving their home behind like an old broken toy.
Some versions of this world hold horrors beyond the ruins. Creatures that did not exist before the fall now roam the wastelands, twisted by radiation, by science gone wrong, by forces that were never meant to be unleashed. Some hunt, some simply exist, waiting in the dark corners of what was once civilization. Other versions of this world hold no horrors at all, only silence. A world where the last human took their final breath centuries ago, where nothing remains but echoes of what once was. The earth endures, in its own way. It does not care about the collapse of civilization, about the fall of cities, about the extinction of a species that once thought itself untouchable. The trees grow, the rivers flow, the sky stretches wide and empty. If humanity is remembered at all, it is not through history, not through monuments, but through the ruins left behind, through the artifacts buried beneath the dust, through the hollow shells of buildings that once held life. In some stories, there is the possibility of something new, not a return to what was, but the birth of something different. Perhaps a new species rises in the absence of humanity, something more suited to the world as it is now. Perhaps the machines inherit the earth, shaping it in their own image. Perhaps the planet simply moves on, existing without the interference of those who once sought to control it. No matter the version of the story, the message remains the same. Nothing lasts forever. The world is not owed to anyone. Civilization is not indestructible. Humanity may have believed itself permanent, but the ruins tell a different tale. The neon lights have gone dark. The machines hum their last words. The wind blows through empty streets, and the earth continues, indifferent to what was lost.
The community exists in the world of the giver, a place where everything is controlled, where every choice has been removed, where the people live in an illusion of peace that has erased everything that makes them human. It is not a dystopia built on violence or destruction. It is a world carefully designed to eliminate suffering, to remove pain, to prevent conflict, that in doing so, it has taken something else, something deeper, something that cannot be measured in rules and regulations. The streets are quiet, orderly, clean. There is no chaos here, no uncertainty, no disruptions to the perfect rhythm of daily life. The houses are identical, the schedules precise, the routines unchanging. Every morning, the people wake at the same time, dress in the same way, eat the same food. There are no spontaneous decisions, no unexpected events. Every action is dictated by structure, every moment planned for them. There is no crime, because there is no reason for crime. There is no violence, because there is no anger. There is no war, because there is no ambition. The people do not suffer, but they do not feel, not in the way they once did. The extremes of emotion have been removed, smoothed over by a system that sees unpredictability as a threat. There is no deep sorrow, no great joy, no passion, no love. Families exist, but they are not built on connection. They are assigned, constructed by a council that decides what is best for everyone. Children are born from designated birth mothers, raised in nurseries until they are placed into carefully selected family units. There is no randomness, no chance, no accidents. Everything is designed to function in perfect harmony. The past has been erased. The people do not know what came before, do not know of pain, of war, of hunger, of suffering, but they also do not know of color, of music, of laughter that comes without reason. They do not remember the world that was lost, because they have never been allowed to know it. The knowledge of history, of human experience, is held by only one person, the receiver of memory. One person who carries the weight of everything that was, who remembers the emotions that have been removed, who knows what has been sacrificed in the name of order. The people believe they are free, because they have never known anything else. They do not question the rules, because they do not see them as restrictions. They do not feel trapped, because they have never known the possibility of escape. They do not rebel, because rebellion requires desire, and desire has been carefully stripped from them. Their world is small, controlled, predictable,
They do not think beyond it, because there is no beyond, not for them. There are no seasons in the community. The weather is always the same, controlled to eliminate the inconvenience of cold, the unpredictability of storms, the discomfort of extreme heat. There is no hunger, because food is always provided. There is no sickness, because medicine is administered before symptoms can even appear. There is no aging beyond a certain point, because once a person reaches the age where they are no longer seen as useful, they are released. The people do not question this. They do not ask what release means. They accept it, because they have been told it is good, because they have never been given a reason to think otherwise. Language is precise. There is no room for misinterpretation, for exaggeration, for words that might stir feelings that should not exist. Apologies are automatic. Greetings are scripted. Expressions of emotion are measured and shallow. There is no lying, not because honesty is valued, but because the very idea of deception has been erased. There are no choices, because choices lead to mistakes, and mistakes lead to suffering. The people do not see color. They do not hear music. They do not know what it means to long for something, to dream of something more. They live in a world stripped of conflict, but also stripped of beauty. They are safe, but they are not alive. Beneath the surface, beneath the carefully constructed order, there is something missing, something that cannot be named because it has never been allowed to exist. The receiver of memory carries it, buried beneath the weight of history, knowing that the world could be different, that it once was different, that it has been made small on purpose. The receiver knows what the others do not, that love was real, that pain had meaning, that even in suffering, there was something worth holding on to. But the people cannot know. The system has been built too well. They have been protected too thoroughly. If they were to remember, if they were to feel again, if they were to understand what has been taken from them, the illusion would break, and the community cannot afford to break. The world outside is unknown. There are whispers of something beyond the borders, of places that do not follow the same rules, of people who have not been molded into this controlled existence. But the people of the community do not ask about the outside. They do not wonder what lies beyond their world, because they do not believe there is anything else. Their world is enough, because it has been designed to be enough. The community will continue, as it always has, as it was built to do. The people will wake and eat, and work, and sleep. They will live without pain, without hunger, without war. But they will also live without joy, without passion, without true choice. They will exist in a state of constant artificial balance, unaware that they have lost something they were never given the chance to understand. And so the world remains as it is, perfect, ordered, controlled, not because it is right, but because it is all they have ever known.
The lunar colonies exist in the world of Red Rising, a civilization that has expanded beyond Earth, reaching into the stars, and reshaping society into something rigid, something where power is determined not by merit, not by democracy, but by the color you are born into. It is a world where humanity has conquered space, but in doing so has created something far worse, a system that does not simply control its people, but defines them from the moment they take their first breath to the moment they take their last. The society is built on hierarchy. At the top stand the golds, the rulers, the warriors, the architects of a system designed to keep them in power forever. They are stronger, taller, faster, engineered to be superior in every way. They live in palaces carved into the surface of the moon, in citadels that float above planets, in cities that gleam beneath artificial suns. They have wealth beyond measure, technology beyond comprehension, armies that can crush entire worlds if they so choose. They do not rule through democracy. They rule through might, through fear, through the quiet and unshakable belief that they are better than those beneath them. Beneath them are the other colors, each assigned a role, each given a place in a society that does not allow for movement. The silvers control commerce, The whites control religion, the blues pilot the ships that glide through the void, the greens design the technology that powers civilization. The obsidians, once gods of war, have been broken, reforged into soldiers who obey without question. The grays enforce the law, the coppers write the rules, the violets create art to distract those who might think too much. The pinks exist to serve in pleasure, the yellows in medicine, the browns in labor, and at the bottom, beneath them all, are the reds. The reds were told they were pioneers, that they were the foundation upon which the stars would be built. They were sent to the mines of Lunar, to the depths of Mars, to the frozen wastes of the moons of Jupiter, believing they were working for a better future, for a cause greater than themselves. They toiled in darkness, breathing dust, breaking their bodies against the stone, their lives spent in service of a dream they would never see realized. They did not know the truth, that the cities above them were already thriving, that the golds had already conquered the stars, that they were nothing more than a forgotten workforce, kept in ignorance, kept in chains. The lunar colonies are not like Earth. There is no sky here, no wind, no open air. The cities are built beneath domes, beneath the surface, in tunnels that stretch for miles, in caverns that hold entire civilizations. Artificial lights glow where the sun does not reach, controlled by the hands of those who decide who lives in the light and who remains in the dark. The gravity is weaker, the air thinner, the rules stricter. Every breath is a gift, every movement monitored, every word weighed against the consequences it might bring. War is never far. The society is vast, spanning the moons and planets of the solar system, but it is not at peace. The golds rule, but they do not trust one another. They fight in the shadows, in the corridors of power, on battlefields carved into the stars. Their armies are vast, their fleets endless, their weapons capable of wiping entire colonies from existence. They do not fight for survival, they fight for control, for dominance, for the simple and undeniable pleasure of proving that they are stronger than the rest. The soldiers of the lunar colonies do not choose to fight, they are chosen. The obsidians are bred for war, trained from birth to kill, to obey, to die if commanded. The reds, if they are lucky, are conscripted, thrown into the meat grinder, given weapons they do not know how to use, sent to die for a cause they do not understand. The blues pilot the warships, moving with precision, calculating the trajectories of missiles that will shatter entire fleets. The grays enforce order, ensuring that no one questions, no one hesitates, no one dreams of anything beyond the next battle. The war is not about justice, it is not about freedom, it is about power, about maintaining the system that keeps the golds at the top and everyone else beneath them. It is about crushing those who dare to resist, about ensuring that no rebellion takes root, about reminding the people of the lunar colonies that their lives belong to those who rule them. The battles are fought in space, in orbit around dead planets, in the depths of blackness, where the stars are distant and cold. They are fought on the surface, in the mines, in the cities that rise from the dust, in the corridors of ships where gravity is a luxury, where death comes in silence. The people of the lunar colonies know they are not free. They do not dream of freedom, because dreaming is dangerous. They wake, they work, they fight, they die. The society tells them this is how it must be, that this is the order of the universe, that this is the only way civilization can survive. They believe it, because they must, because to believe otherwise is to invite death, to invite the wrath of those who will not tolerate dissent. But in the dark, in the forgotten corners of the colonies, in the places where the golds do not look, there are whispers. There are those who know the truth, those who have seen the lies, those who have felt the weight of chains and refuse to accept them. They know that the system is not unbreakable. They know that the golds are not gods. They know that the war does not have to be fought on their terms. The society believes it has built something eternal. The golds believe they will rule forever,
But the lunar colonies are built on the backs of those who have been beaten, who have been broken, who have been told they are nothing. And the thing about people who have nothing is that they have nothing left to lose. The war will not end with diplomacy. It will not end with compromise. It will not end until the system that created it is torn apart, until the golds are brought down from their palaces, until the people who have suffered in the shadows rise into the light. The lunar colonies were built to serve, to endure, to provide, but nothing that has been beaten down stays down forever. And when the time comes, when the first spark ignites, when the war shifts from the gold's control into the hands of those they have oppressed, the lunar colonies will not be a battlefield. They will be something else. They will be the beginning of the end.
The remnants of the United States exist in the world of legend, a country fractured into something unrecognizable, split between those who rule with absolute control and those who are left to survive in the ruins. What was once a unified nation is now divided, with the Republic of America standing as a militarized state that stretches across the western half of the continent, while the colonies hold power in the east. The land between them is a battlefield, torn apart by years of war, by shifting allegiances, by the weight of a history that has been rewritten by those in power. The Republic is a nation of order, of strict control, of a system designed to elevate the elite, while ensuring that the rest remain exactly where they are meant to be. The government rules with an iron grip, its leaders protected by military force, its citizens kept in line by fear, by surveillance, by the knowledge that disobedience is not an option. The Republic is always at war, whether with the colonies, with internal resistance, or with its own people. Every aspect of life is shaped by this conflict. The military is not just a part of the government, it is the government. The laws are built around national security, around ensuring that no challenge to power can ever rise. The capital is a place of shining buildings, of advanced technology, of a population that does not see itself as oppressed because it has been taught not to question. The people live by rules that dictate their futures from the moment they are born. The trial is the ultimate test, the point at which a child's fate is determined. It is supposed to be fair, objective, based on merit and intelligence. That fairness is an illusion. Those who pass with high scores are given paths to power, to wealth, to comfort. Those who fail are discarded, sent to labor camps, to prisons, to places where they will never be seen again. The lower districts of the Republic are a different world. Here, the streets are cracked, the buildings crumbling, the people struggling to find enough food, enough medicine, enough time before the system crushes them entirely. The Republic does not care about them, does not see them, except when it needs recruits for its armies, when it needs someone to blame for the failures of the state, when it needs an example of what happens to those who step out of line. The plague runs through these districts, spreading unchecked, a sickness that kills without mercy. The government does not stop it, it controls it, chooses where it spreads, who it affects, who survives and who does not. The war with the colonies is endless, stretching beyond memory, beyond reason. The people are told that the colonies are the enemy, that they seek to destroy the Republic, that they must be fought at all costs. But the war is not about survival, it is about control, about maintaining the structure that keeps the Republic's leaders in power. The soldiers who fight in it are not fighting for freedom, they are fighting because they have no choice, because the Republic has made it so that the only future they can have is one in which they serve, in which they kill, in which they die. Propaganda is everywhere. The Republic controls the narrative, controls what its people know, controls the way they see the world. The news broadcasts only what the government wants it to. The schools teach only the history that has been rewritten to serve those in charge. The people do not question because they have never been allowed to know that questioning is even possible. They believe in the Republic because they must. They believe in its leaders because they have never been given a reason not to. But beneath the surface, beneath the weight of control, there are cracks in the system. There are those who have seen the truth,
who know that the Republic is not invincible, that the war is not what it seems, that the world is not as small as they have been told. The rebels exist in the shadows, moving through the lower districts, striking where they can, gathering those who are willing to fight. They are hunted, labeled as traitors, as terrorists, as threats to national security, but they do not stop. They cannot stop, because they know that the Republic will never change on its own. The colonies, on the other side of the war, are not saviors. They are not a utopia, not a perfect alternative to the Republic's rule. They have their own leaders, their own agendas, their own version of the truth. But they offer something the Republic does not: choice, the illusion of freedom, the possibility of something different. And for those who have seen what the Republic truly is, that is enough. The people of the Republic live in a world where survival is not guaranteed, where loyalty is enforced, where those who have power will do whatever it takes to keep it. The streets are patrolled by soldiers who do not hesitate to enforce the law, by drones that watch from above, by informants who will turn in their neighbors if it means securing their own safety. The city may shine, but its foundation is built on fear. There are whispers of resistance, of something stirring beneath the surface, of a force that the Republic cannot control forever. The leaders believe they are untouchable, that their system is too strong, that the people are too broken to ever rise against them. But no rule lasts forever. No system, no matter how absolute, can suppress the human need for freedom forever. The Republic of America stands, powerful, unchallenged, a machine that seems unstoppable, but in the shadows, in the ruins, in the places where the government does not look, something is waiting. And when it comes, when the first cracks become fractures, when the truth begins to spread, when the people who have nothing realize they still have one thing left, each other, then the Republic will learn what it truly means to be at war.
The territory exists in the world of the knife of never letting go, a place where silence has been erased, where thoughts do not belong to those who think them, where the air itself carries the weight of every secret, every fear, every lie. It is a world where privacy is impossible, where the human mind is no longer a sanctuary, where men walk through life with their thoughts laid bare for anyone to hear. This is the noise, an inescapable flood of voices, a constant stream of unfiltered thought, a never-ending presence that fills the air like static, like whispers in the dark, like the sound of a million minds speaking at once. The territory was meant to be a new start. When the settlers arrived, they believed they were escaping the past, leaving behind the problems of the old world, building something new on a planet untouched by the conflicts of Earth. But they did not find paradise. They found something else, something they did not understand, something that changed them. The noise was not supposed to happen. It was not part of the plan. The moment they stepped onto this world, it became part of them, seeping into their minds, stripping them of the ability to hide, to conceal, to be anything other than exposed. The men cannot stop it. Their thoughts spill into the open. Their emotions flare like signals. Their memories play out against their will. There are no secrets in the territory, not among the men. There is only the constant hum of minds, overlapping, of desires, and fears, and guilt, and anger, spilling into the open. There is no way to pretend, no way to lie, no way to keep anything hidden for long. In the territory, everyone knows what kind of man you are, whether you want them to or not. The settlements are small, scattered across the land, each one isolated, each one controlled. The leaders of these towns understand the power of the noise. They know how to use it, how to manipulate it, how to turn it into a weapon. They do not need spies when they can hear the thoughts of every man in their town. They do not need courts when guilt reveals itself before a trial can even be held. The laws are simple. Obey. Do not question. Do not think of resistance, because even the idea of rebellion will not stay buried for long. But there is something missing in the noise, something that should be there but isn't. The women do not have it.
Their minds remain silent, untouched by the force that weighs on the men. They can hear the noise, but they do not create it. They can listen, but they cannot be heard. And in a world where thoughts are power, where knowing what a man is thinking means knowing how to control him, the ones who cannot be heard become something else, something dangerous. The leaders say the women are gone. They say there are no more, that the noise drove them mad, that they could not survive it, that the world is now for men alone. But the truth is never that simple. The truth is buried beneath the weight of the noise, beneath the thoughts that cover up the things no one dares to say out loud. And in the silence left behind, there are whispers of something else, of a place beyond the territory, of lands untouched by the laws of the settlements, of people who do not live by the same rules. The blessed lands are more than a rumor. They are a promise, a legend, a possibility, a place where the noise is not everything, where something different exists, where those who do not belong in the territory might find another way to live. But getting there is not easy. The world outside the settlements is wild, dangerous, filled with creatures that do not think like humans, that do not care about the conflicts of men. The rivers run fast, the forests stretch for miles, the mountains rise like barriers against those who would try to leave. And beyond them, beyond the edges of the maps that the settlers have drawn, there are places no one speaks of, places where the truth of this world might still be waiting to be uncovered. The leaders of the territory do not want people searching for the blessed lands. They do not want their laws to be questioned, their power to be challenged, their version of history to be rewritten. They keep the people in line through the noise, through the inability to hide their doubts, their hopes, their fears. They make examples of those who disobey, and they use the noise itself as their strongest tool. Because what better way to control a population than to know their every thought before they can act on it? But no system is perfect. No rule lasts forever. There are those who have learned to control their noise, to shape it, to hide things beneath the surface of their minds. There are those who have learned that even in a world where thoughts are loud, silence can still be powerful. And there are those who refuse to believe the lies they have been told, who refuse to accept that this is all there is, who look toward the horizon and wonder what might be waiting beyond it. The world of the territory is built on exposure, on the idea that nothing can be hidden, that every secret will eventually be revealed. But the greatest threat to those who rule it is not the noise. It is the silence that still lingers, the things they cannot hear, the truths they have tried to erase. Because in a world where every man's mind is an open book, the things that remain unwritten are the ones that hold the most power. The territory will not stay the same forever. The settlers believed they were coming to a new world, but what they found was something else entirely, something they do not fully understand, something they do not fully control. The noise is everywhere, but it is not everything. And for those who are willing to listen, for those who are willing to search, there are still places where something different might be waiting. Because no matter how loud the world becomes, there will always be those who know that the most important truths are the ones spoken in silence.